up against things like Beowulf and all the other epics. Like it's that good in my eyes. Um, but that just because of the care that Tolkien put into the books. Um, Robert Jordan did the same thing. I think he's our modern version of the Lord of the Rings. Um, version of, and I'm glad Sanderson was the one to finish it. If anybody could do it, it would have been him. So
I don't know. I am 100%. I just love the way Robert Jordan writes. I really well the way he
yeah,
um and yeah, I definitely I get where what Garrus is talking about with having it did kind of book 6 book 7 a lot of people say at book 5 it's where it started to kind of veer a little bit, but I think I think book 6 and book 7 is where Rand got really dark.
yeah, he turned into a little broody, which I wasn't a huge fan of.
Yeah. But that's also where some really big things happened. Like I think it was no, it was book 5. Actually, I think maybe it was book 5 where Dami Wells. You remember Garrus?
That was,
Or was that book 6?
I think that was 6.
And that was 6. I
Okay.
honestly, now you guys make me want to reread the whole
Yeah,
fucking series.
You should.
Mazrim Tame came in book 5.
Yep.
That's right. Mazrim
Yep.
Tame
That's
came in
right.
book 5, and Hook. They formed the Black Tower and started doing that whole thing. They didn't really talk about the Black Tower until book 6. A little bit here
Hmm.
and there. Um,
Is that when Mazrim team? The name rings a bell. Starting to come back to me. Is that when Rand finds his basically the males that are not tainted?
no, well, there are no males that are not tainted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that's okay.
Every male is tainted.
right.
Because I
It's
know he finds a group of people of male who use Aes Sedai who are kind of like they have their own community. He kind of brings them in. I can't remember the head honcho's name that kind of is leading them at the point, but then Rand kind of takes over and he creates his own cadre.
you need to
Is that
reread.
what you're talking about?
You need to reread.
Yeah, I need it.
Yeah,
I hate the
I'm
both of you for
struggling
it.
with
And
this.
that's a good story, man, but that's not the story.
Yeah, maybe a little later.
You need to
Oh,
start with book 1, The Eye of the World, and
Well,
do
yeah,
it in
I've
order.
read half. I read half of that
No,
last night. I have to
you
finish.
you
go
so
ahead.
you need to be like me, which was every time a new book came out, I started the series again.
Oh no, god damn.
I have read, yeah, oh yeah. So Eye of the World, I've read that what, 14 times? 15 times because I've also read it. I just have not read New Spring,
I
which is again,
well,
The novella, yeah. I've
but
read New Spring back when it came out. I remember I was in high school. Came out. I remember I was in pretty
but
sure high school.
Eye of the World is a
Came out, so I
fantastic
remember I
book,
was
though.
in
it's
pretty
an
sure.
incredible
Eye
book.
of the World is a
It's a
I
great
would
fantastic.
have been happy with 2 books, Eye of the World, and then just something not quite as I don't think you can get better than Eye of the World in this series.
Book
Um,
3 is actually the book that I started on.
oh, Reborn.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of this series. Actually, it's kind of funny the way I became aware of this series. Um, I what was I? Well, anyway, I was homesick from school. And my mother used to do like book clubs, crazy with the book clubs, and she would get all these books for like $1 a piece. So she'd just go through and she'd pick some things that she liked, but she'd pick some things that just random stuff. And one of them that she picked was The Dragon Reborn, book 3. And I was really sick. I think I had pneumonia or something. So yeah, I'm out in the living room just kind of being miserable, and I'm looking at the bookshelf, and there's this book there. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna start reading that book. And oh my god, I was out of school. I think it was like a Thursday. I spent Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday reading that book, literally like all night. Thursday night into the next day. Um, it was awesome. I loved that book, and that's what got me started on the Wheel of Time. And I actually I read 3, 4, and 5, and then went back and started over and read from the beginning with book 1, Eye of the World, which we're discussing today. So, welcome in, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Hey, Matt, I see you out there.
Mhm.
Garrus has joined us tonight from the Discord. So, we're kind of doing this dual purpose tonight. So, Rob and I are doing this live, and if you want to get into voice to chat with us about this book, then you got to join our Discord if you're not already there. But feel welcome to jump into the Discord, and you can join the conversation. So, book 1, Eye of the World. The way, so really getting down to the way this book starts out, because the book starts out kind of giving you the end of the second age. So the series itself is set in the third age. The end of the second age and the birth of the Dragon Reborn. I don't know. Maybe it's well past. Maybe actually that was the beginning of the third age.
It was the beginning of the third, because if you remember, he made reference to they've had this fight before, and they will have it again as the wheel turns.
Right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the
They-
book, like the prologue ends either at the ending of the second age, the beginning of the third age, or like you said, it's a little past the beginning of the third age, which
Right.
honestly makes sense because that's literally how the Lord of the Rings starts. And Robert Jordan was a huge, I mean, Tolkien was a huge inspiration for Jordan. So fair point.
Yeah,
So
and he made the point. Robert Jordan made
Mhm.
this point of always starting off with this is neither beginning nor ending to the turning of the wheel. It is a beginning. So he always did
Yeah.
that, meaning this is just a place that we start.
Hmm.
Somewhere there was an actual beginning, but this isn't it. But we're going to start there.
right. Is there a beginning or an end? I mean,
Right.
that's definitely one of the questions behind the series.
Hmm.
Does it ever end? You kind of face that in the later books. You kind of face that, but
Yeah.
for book 1, so beginning piece, definitely it starts out with the previous dragon, which for the life of me right now his name is escaping me.
Lose Theron.
Lewis, yeah, there you go.
Right.
Lose Theron. Correct.
Tilleman. Um, and it starts out with kind of a piece of his story,
Hmm.
and then rolls into the birth of the Dragon Reborn for the Third Age.
And what a
Um,
piece it is, isn't it?
it's fantastic.
It starts pretty. I remember reading this, and I think I was in junior high school because I just gotten off of the Lord of the Rings kick. I just finished reading all the books, watching all the movies, and this led me directly to that to the Wheel of Time. And you open the first page, and it starts off like just hitting you in the stomach real hard. Like it pulls no punches from the get go. I was like, oh damn, okay, I guess that's where we're going. Um, uh, yeah. The first couple pages are very poignant, is the way I'd put it. Um, you come onto a scene of utter destruction. As Telamon is walking through what was his home, and he's I can't remember if no, I can't remember for the life of me if he was out cold or something.
Mm-mm.
Like if
Madness had
like
taken him.
okay, so he kind of just like kind of woke up. Okay, like he
Yeah,
kind
he
of
was
that
wandering
period.
about.
Hmm.
Remember, it talks about him stepping over Ilyena's body and his
Yep.
children and the servants as he's just walking around. madness has him, right? He can't see what's all around him.
Mhm. And the sad
I,
part
I've,
is,
I've read this book, a couple of times, but
yeah, the
just
sad
just
part
a
is
few.
like when he comes to realize what really happened, um, it again, the descriptions that Robert Jordan give are very poignant, and they even in those first couple pages, you're like, oof, okay, I can kind of feel for this guy.
Well, okay, yeah, that's what I was looking for right there. I mean, do you, because that's, I think he does a really good job with that and introducing that character right off the bat and how he introduces that character. It kind of sets the stage for the backstory to the story where, you do kind of feel bad for him. And then later on, once you start to understand what was actually happening, he becomes, at the beginning you feel bad for him, so he's kind of like the, not necessarily a hero, but definitely a character that can draw your sympathy.
Hmm.
But then later on he becomes something else.
We'll get to that.
Mm. So the beginning piece, absolutely fantastic. And what's your what if you were to name one thing out of that introduction, what is the thing that sticks with you the most out of that introduction? Garrus? Hey, by the way, welcome in Infinity Core.
Welcome in, dude.
Eh,
It's good to have you.
So do you have one thing that sticks out to you from that intro?
it does, or there is. The one thing that, and I picked this up, I want to say around book, hmm, book 3 or 4 is where it really clicked in when I was rereading it, and it was after that book had come out, and this is what it is. The He set the entire story, like the world, the mythos, the technology, the abilities. He set all of that in this prologue. We learn about traveling, channeling, technology. We hear about the 9 rings of dominion that they have, the council. So we hear about the government that they have in place.
Mm-hmm.
Right, the hall of servants, the battle at the gates of, like, it's like Paranday or some, I don't remember I should remember it. I'm kind of, that's sad, but he sets things that we don't hear about until many books later.
Right.
Like we're talking, 6-7 years later, after he wrote this prologue, he brings those elements in and expands on it. Traveling,
Hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
When Luz jumps and then
Yep.
channels all the power in him and creates the mountain, right? Or the mountain. Um, we don't hear about traveling until way later.
Right.
All right, maybe book 4. I think is where we get it, 4 or 5, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
But
when they
that
meet
doesn't come in there.
Laenfer.
Yes, exactly. Actually, that had to be in.
Well, book
That was in
4. It's
book
book 4
book
because
2.
that's,
Had the Great Hunt. That was with Lanfear.
yeah, actually you're right, because that's when they're coming back for the hunt for the horn, and when Pern
Yeah.
and Matt are stuck in the yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, because Shadar Logoth happens in book 1. That's where Matt gets a dagger, and then 2. Yeah, so it's in book 2 we get that. The visions that Rand has is, um, we hear about them in, I think it's, I want to say in Dragon Reborn. No, that's Tyr. So it's when he goes to the waste.
Right.
That he goes into and I'm
Rioden.
not going to go into, but into this, right, and right, sees the visions of the past.
Yep.
And
Pass.
that's where he sees that. We get reference to the voice when Luz welcomes Morin in, and he's like, "Oh, do you have the voice? It's about time for us to sing." We don't hear about that until later, way later,
Mm-hmm.
right? And yet, in this little prologue, he has put all these little things that are coming in way down the road. he had a plan in mind. You can see this from book 1. He knew where he was going to go.
Mhm.
So let's back up for just a moment. Names, okay? So the names of the people in this series, all right? Moiraine. Anybody get a
You had to
different
start
name?
with her. Did you really have? I called her Moraine,
Yep.
Yeah, I
and you
called her
had to start with
Lauren.
her out of
I did.
everyone.
I got. You know
I
what? I absolutely love that character. I really do. That she is awesome.
I'm
She is
I'm so
fantastic.
glad he put glossary in
okay.
it though, because I ain't gonna lie, some of those names and pronunciations, especially as a young kid, I'm like, how in the hell do I pronounce this shit?
So I will
So
say she's at the top for well, not at the top. She's near the top. She's top 5 for me.
Yeah, there's so many. That's the thing is
You
it
know,
this is
there's
such an expansive world with so many
it is.
interesting, intriguing characters that later on in later books there's other characters that you absolutely fall in love with as well. But book 1, Morin,
Yep.
and even above like the friends of Rand and Pern and Metrum.
yeah, yeah.
So
I
there
don't know,
there
I
there's the other names for me. That's what I call them. What do you call them?
my favorite character was Lan. He was one of my favorite characters.
Lan Mandragoran.
Lan.
Yeah,
He was fantastic.
yeah.
All right, let's go with a tough name, right?
Okay.
Not my favorite, but the former Amarillan seat. What do you call her? Suan
Yep.
is how I say it,
Sanchez.
even though
Suen Chancet.
Sanchez.
Yep.
Yep.
I can't even remember her name. I think she comes in later books, doesn't she? She's
No, she's
mentioned in
in
the
book 2. She's in book 2.
Yeah, she
she's
book
book 2.
2 because she's still the Amarillan seat at that point. And let's talk about our
She is.
least favorite out of every character ever introduced across all the
Oh.
books.
Oh, that's hard. That's a hard one. That is a hard
The
one.
least
No, it's
favorite?
not.
Yes, it is. It is. Well, go ahead. Go
Wait,
ahead.
wait, wait.
I'm
Who
gonna.
did you say?
My least favorite?
Yeah.
There were several. There were several for
If you say Peyton Fane, we can't be friends anymore.
Oh no,
no, no,
nobody better say that.
no.
You got to
Honestly,
love him so much to hate him that much.
Right,
He's
right.
honestly, my
incredible.
least favorite, at least at the beginning, and again, I haven't read these books in a very long time. I just, for full disclosure, I only got through the half of the first book, so
Oh, she's
catching
in
up.
there. Don't worry.
Eh, I think Egwene is my least favorite. I
Really?
couldn't stand her.
I'm
Couldn't stand her.
surprised.
Oh.
Oh,
She
you
and
hate her more than the knave?
I was gonna say I hate them both. I hate
Knave.
them.
I'm sorry, hands down.
Yeah,
Knave.
yeah. I hate. I did.
The
I
way
just
she treats Lan, especially at the beginning, the way she views the
the way she treats
world,
all of them.
every male, you're right. I mean,
Right,
and
she
it's
treats them all like
oh
children, and it's like, yo, calm down. I have a mom, and it's not you.
yeah. Yeah.
You know. And
And
then
oh,
for
you
the
can't,
reason why,
if you bring up her age, then she's going to thump you with her stick. And, she's got to get mad, at least in the early books, to be able to channel. And then she's the most powerful of them all, more powerful than Elaine. And come on, man. Really? Really?
yeah, I didn't like her
Knave?
turn. The
who
the
who can't channel a bit unless she's completely
Right.
furious.
Yep. And she's got to be yanking on her hair. How many times did we hear that
Oh yeah.
over and
I'm
over
Oh
and
surprised
yeah.
she didn't go bald.
over? Yeah. How does she still have hair? Someone tell me that.
It's really
Because
thick
man, if
hair.
I look at the mirror, at what few hairs I have left in my head, I swear I'll see like one or two falling at that point. Never mind yanking as hard as I can.
For
later
me,
later in life she
obviously,
becomes Seachin and shaves it all off.
I will say this: my favorite character besides Land was, ironically enough, or unironically, was Rand. I like his until I did stop liking him when he turned into a broody little bitch. I ain't gonna lie, but that comes a bit later. But if you when you learn the whole story of what he's going through, I kind of get it. But at the same time, I'm like, bro, put your big boy pants on, suck it up, Jesus.
Quit being a little bitch.
Yeah, quit being a bitch.
All right, but hey,
Like,
let's let Greg. We haven't heard from Greg. Least favorite.
My least favorite. Okay, so out of all the books, well,
Hmm.
okay. You know what?
Yeah, there's a big list.
Yeah, I gotta think on that just a little bit. Can we come back to that one? Because
yeah,
Yeah.
but
there's
I'll answer your initial question about what was like what stood out to me in that prologue. And I think the piggyback off of what you said, Garrus, was, you said that the foundations of the world that he built, and right there was scale. The scale of the world that he built stood out to me very starkly. And again, I know I'm making a lot of parallels between him and Tolkien, but it reminded me of that. And as a kid reading that, when I realized that, I was like, okay, this is going to be a good series because he took, like you said, he took the time to set the foundations of the world that he was building. But again, he didn't just leave threads out there to draw interest. He circled back and built on. Yeah, granted, a lot of these elements were built on long after they mattered, in the grand scheme of things, but they had their place in the world. So it wasn't just something to draw the eye. It was like, no, this is all important. This all matters, and this is explains and informs what you want to read all the way to the end. And the character development, I will say that character development. Oh man, all of them, even the ones I didn't like, they
what
they all had really good character.
you start. That's a really interesting thing, and this is opinion for you. But I mean, if you look at this entire series, it's not the typical hero's journey
No,
because
No.
because you have multiple characters that he's telling the hero's journey for each one of them. And
hmm
some of those, you've got the six main characters that are in there.
yep,
And each one of them has their own hero's journey. Each one of them goes through this whole list of the development thing to go
hmm
from being the snot-nosed bratty little kid, um in some cases, and
yeah,
to being, the Amerlin seat later on. You know what I mean? Um, so you have that, but then you also have these characters that are not, they're integral to only a piece of the story and not the whole story.
yeah.
So
And
the
he,
Forsaken.
well, the Forsaken, but I'm even going deeper than that and talking about characters like Talmanez.
Tom.
No, not Tom. Talmanez, the
Remind
Oh,
me.
okay.
the Carhenian
Yep.
soldier
Yep.
that attaches himself to Metrim Cathan later on in the books. Yeah, obviously not book one. We're all over the place. Sorry about that. But that character is a phenomenal, very very well written character. And there's another one that travels with him. But okay, back it up to book one, where it's very very centered on 8 characters, and then there's one character that shows up in book one that is a definitely a key piece of the overall story, but has a very small part in book one, only in a couple of chapters. Can you name who that is?
Do you mean someone who's just trying to sell some pots and pans and
What?
pins?
No,
Excuse me.
no.
There are
Well, that
pins.
okay. So there's more than one character that fits this role, but
There are.
there's one in particular that becomes a key piece to the overall story. Not
I'm
paid in
drawing a
fame.
blank.
But he's
Drawing a
so
blank.
good. Maybe it's is it someone who can see? Wait, is she in book one?
Yes, she is in book one. You're on it
Okay.
right there,
Yeah,
Min.
that's yep, Min. Absolutely.
Yeah.
El Mindrada.
Yes.
Oh, she's near the top for me.
Yeah.
I
I,
got to
Is she
tell
in the
you.
first half?
what? Is
Is
she
she
what?
in the first half of the book?
Oh, she's she's
Um.
she's
Yeah,
She's in the
they meet her when they go to Barrowline. So
hmm
actually, let me
and
just pop up this map really quick here to show everybody, because I did put a map of the two rivers in here. So this is where virtually all of book one takes place. So you have the two rivers.
Mhm.
Edmund's Field is like the hometown of our key characters.
Yep.
Rand al'Thor, Pern, Matrim Cathan, Perne Barra, Matrim Cathan, um, Egwene Almer. Um, oh,
say Neneve's name. Go ahead. It's okay.
what is her last name?
I can't.
Neneve's
Yeah,
Demodred.
Demedred. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Which coincident? Well, actually, okay. So
Don't jump ahead. Don't jump ahead.
Moiraine's
Things go
last name
down.
is Demandred. Moiraine
That's
Demandred.
Almera.
Yes. There.
Oh yeah, there you go. Nynaeve Elmera. Is it Elmera?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almera.
Who?
Elmira.
Neneve's Almira.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so those characters all come out of Edmund's Field, and I definitely did jump ahead because I said 6. Those 5 characters come out of Edmund's Field, and then the reason they come out is because of Moiraine and Lan.
Yep.
And I'm gonna take the map back down, and somebody want to pick up from there. Where are we going next?
Do we want to talk about the attack? Because that's what happens
Yes.
after we're introduced to Moraine and Lan.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, a key piece to that is Rand isn't actually there. There's 2 attacks going on.
Oh, you know what we missed?
In Edmund Field.
His father.
Yeah.
We missed Tam.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and remember when they were traveling,
Mhm.
the man in the cloak that the wind did not affect.
Oh, the fades. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
we
I
totally
was-
skipped that.
Well, we haven't
No.
we haven't actually talked about the attack piece yet. So
When
Well,
I
but this was before. This was when they were first going to Edmund's Field, and remember, we had Matt and Perrin had also seen him
yep.
over there, and they were going to send the folks up to Terran
Ferry.
Falls, Terran
Ferry.
Ferry. Thank you. Because strangers and the rumor of war. All of this happened before the actual attack.
Right.
Mhm.
Yep.
during that, they were heading to Edmund Field for the that festival.
Yep. Well,
Mm-hmm.
Tam and Rand, because they did the festival. Which, what was the festival called again?
I can.
Beltane.
Beltane. That's
Beltane.
correct.
So they did the festival, and then after the festival, it didn't happen the way it happened. The Amazon butchered this piece of the story.
Oh, they
Well,
did.
the festival didn't happen when the attack. It happened the night before
The festival.
the attack. Remember, because Rand and Tam went back home,
Yep.
and Tam told Rand, "We'll go back in the morning. I
Yep.
just don't want to be out at night."
Yep.
And when they made it back there, not going to go into spoilers because I know we're going to talk about it, but then that's where, and they talked about how the pole was burned, but parts of the town, weren't touched. Other parts were,
Mm-hmm.
and people were,
So that really kind of leads into the story piece to this, and identifying who the key characters are, because at this point you don't really know who the key characters are because you've been introduced to quite a few people. I think it becomes obvious pretty early that Rand and Matt and Perrin are key characters.
Yeah.
So can I ask you a question, Greg?
Yeah.
You watched the series.
I did.
And how does, up to this point, right? We focused on the book.
Yep.
And what the book actually says. Has the series been kept up with this, or have they changed things at this point? Because I know changes are coming very quickly.
Well, all I can say in the comparison piece is, don't get me wrong. The story that Amazon is telling is a good story. I will say that it is a good story. It is not the Wheel of Time. It is nowhere near as good as the actual story of the Wheel of Time. Um, it's very, very different, even in this, especially I would say in this key area right here, the very beginning. Um, because they leave so much of the character building that happens in the books out of the story.
Oh, do they
That's
really?
They do. Well, and in the story, the attack comes during Beltane, and Moraine literally like rips the inn apart. So it's no
No.
longer there. Yeah. She tore it
yeah,
But the
down.
inn is integral
that's
later when, you know,
Right.
mhm.
Perrin comes back and he's got Fail with him and right, just everything that not spoiler free, you know, everything that happens, that inn is always kind of that central part of it.
I'm
Yeah.
sure it'll be rebuilt if they make it that far.
I mean,
Well, they'll
that's
make it
like
that far.
because I remember in the story, like the inn was where they held up during the attack on Edmund's Field.
Yes.
And that's where that's where kind of they made their stand, and then that from there they departed after Rand came. But yeah, let's rewind. I will say this: the Forsaken, that guy, the Forsaken on the horse, whom the wind didn't touch. When
The
I read
Fade.
that as a kid, yeah, the Fade. I ain't gonna lie, I had nightmares about that. Shit was terrifying, especially when you learn what they look like underneath that hood.
Yeah.
Nah, nah, burn
What?
that
Well,
shit down.
so how far did you read?
About halfway. About halfway.
No. In the entire series.
Book 11.
Okay.
This is a while ago. Like I had devoured the series and I was reading them faster than they could come out, and I was just waiting and waiting and waiting. That usually is what happens. You usually have to wait years before they release the next one. But I remember I got up to about book 10, book 11, and
Well,
he was
good.
taking so long to come out with the other ones. I didn't necessarily lose interest, but I put it down and it kind of gravitated towards other things. And it wasn't until recently where I circled back. So I'm gonna have to read through all of those again,
Yep.
which
Yeah,
You,
I'm
you
fine
will.
with
yeah, I'm
because
gonna have to
they're
read
really
all of them
good.
as well.
Yeah,
I'd
they're absolutely phenomenal.
say that again, Infinity.
It's been almost 20 years since I've read Wheel of Time. Uh, I read up all the way through 12, the last one that he wrote. So I'm gonna have to reread those because a lot of this I'm missing out on.
You
I've
know,
forgotten.
I haven't read this entire series as many times as Garrus has. I'm finding out, but I've read the whole thing at least 5 times, all the way through, including book 15. Um, and when I first started watching the series on Amazon, it actually confused me because it had been so long since I had read book one. It confused me, um, because it introduces all the key players, all the right characters. But I just I watched the first few episodes of season one, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. It's like this doesn't seem right to me. So it motivated me to go back and reread the entire series again. So, and rereading the entire series again also reignited that passion for the story as well. So,
So I got a question for you, Greg.
yeah.
You said obviously the story that Jordan wrote and the story that was produced by Amazon are not the same.
Hmm.
Um, you're not the first person to say that. My question is, did they change? How much did they change? Did they keep the core elements
A
and not
lot.
the same enough that
No, no. That
not even
like I said, it's a good
that's
story, but it's not the Wheel of Time.
just that's a shame.
Tell them the. I mean, right at the very beginning, we get a change in the story with Perrin,
Yep.
and
Yep.
that'll. I'm going to let you say it
Yeah, what's
because
the
it
change?
still angers me tremendous.
Well, there's
That's what turned me off of the series.
There's two
Mhm.
changes, big changes right at the very beginning. One is they cut the entire there's an entire story that rolls into to build Edmund's Field to give you an idea of this place that these people come from. So in the
Mhm.
books, it talks about the people of this village, And it starts out with them, doing their annual clipping from shearing sheep, because that's a big, part of their economy.
Yeah.
And in there, it in that piece of the story, it introduces the fade concept, which is the dude that the wind doesn't touch, and it also
Yep.
introduces the ravens and what their role is in this, because suddenly there's lots of ravens and all that stuff. Well, okay, Amazon completely cuts that out. That nothing, don't even touch on that. And
Wait,
then,
so they even showed the fade?
well, they showed the fade, but they did it a little bit differently. The books introduced the fade definitely differently than the Amazon did it. Because the way Amazon did it in the story, yeah, it stuck to the idea that the fade was really only kind of seen by these characters, basically the
Mm,
people that are going to be key to the story.
mhm.
So that piece they stuck to, but Pern, Matt, Rand, Nynaeve, and Egwin. So Nynaeve is the oldest out of them, and she's in her early
Yeah, not
20s.
much. Yeah,
Right.
she's not.
She's not like old, you know what I mean? But she's the elder, I guess you could say, of these kids. Okay.
Kind of like the
Um,
older sister figure.
right. Egwene is like, 17, I would say. That's kind of, they don't really give you an age on them, but I mean, 17, I
Mm,
would say, is probably where they're at. 17, 18. And they're all kids living at home with their parents yet. So Egwene's the daughter of the innkeeper and the mayor of the city, which they stick to that in the story.
mm,
Rand and Egwene are kind of a thing, so they stick to that in the story. Um, Amazon starts out with Egwene going through a ritual to become a wisdom, and
mm.
that is not in the story. They made that up
No.
entirely. Um, and then Pern, and actually, I'm going to skip over Pern for a minute. I'm going to come back to that because I know this heats up Garrus very much. So we're going to cover Matt Cathon first. They did a reasonably good job with Matt Cathon, and the family aspect, because that was actually, I mean, he did have two little sisters. His dad's a drunken womanizer. His mom's he did not have a good family life growing up, but
Yeah.
it was different from what they portrayed, in the fact that in the books, his parents they have a farm. His dad is actually, sits on the village council, even though he has his issues. He sits on the village council, and they're somewhat respected people.
Mhm.
Not like the really respected people in there, but somewhat. This is streambo.com. Oh, okay, whatever that is. So in the Amazon story,
You want to ban that bot, by the way.
is that
That's one
about?
of those. Yep. Go to the web page and buy followers. That's what it is.
Gotcha. Okay. So first time chatter. How about last time chatter? Yeah. There you go. Thank you, Matt. So okay, back into the Amazon piece to this. They all live in town, and in this little hovel, basically. So they completely butchered that piece to Matt's story, as if they thought that making Matt a villager in this little village, and having his family have absolutely nothing and be living basically destitute, was going to really add to Matt's story. And to be honest with you, it did not. It detracted more than anything else. And then we have Pern, and so um, Pern does work with the local blacksmith. He's not the local blacksmith, but he does work with the local blacksmith. He's an apprentice to the
Yeah.
blacksmith in town. Okay. And he he has his family, and his family actually has they're a little more prosperous, and they have a larger farm. He's not married, and definitely has not lost a child or anything like that. Um, so that's the book. That's the actual story. Now, Amazon's story. Amazon's story. I believe he is the local blacksmith, basically. Right? Is that right, Garrus?
Actually, in the book, the blacksmith is his father, and that's his family.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Repairing?
Yeah. No.
Am I remembering this incorrectly? Holy cow!
He's an apprentice. He's an apprentice to
Yeah,
the
I knew he
blacksmith.
was because he was learning it.
Yep. Yep. But that's not actually his mom and dad. So anyway, in the Amazon version, he is the blacksmith, I believe. I could be wrong on that because yeah, I'm having a hard time caring about the Amazon version. And he's married, and him and his wife are not necessarily they're kind of estranged from each other because she lost a child, his child apparently, and they kind of not only did they completely create this character out of nothing and add this wife in there, but they also kind of suggest that she was a dark friend as well, and had attached herself to Pern. But yeah, the Master Lewin is the blacksmith. That's not actually Pern's dad.
Yeah, I'm reading that now. It does say, at least from the show perspective, he is married to a woman named Layla.
Yeah, that's completely fake.
Not for long. Don't worry.
Well, that's a really good.
I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this so far. It's where Greg's about to go that I have is what did it for me.
Oh boy.
Yes. So okay.
Okay, it gets worse. All right.
So you know what? Let's trade off a little bit here. I'm gonna I'll tell the Amazon side. Do you want to tell the book side of the festival and all those things, Garrus?
Sure.
So you go tell us what's next in the book, and then I'll give you the Amazon parody.
Okay, where do you want me to start? Do you want me to start?
How about if we start with so let's start with Paden Fane, because you and I both really appreciate that character and him coming to Edmund's Field, and what that was all about, and then I'll give the Amazon version of that.
Sounds good. Can you show that wonderful map? I think that was a great map.
Boom, there we go.
Excellent. All right. So if we look at the map, we can see that Edmund's Field is right halfway down your screen on the left-hand side. There is nothing beyond that to the left or below it. It is mountain ranges, as far as people there know, just mountain ranges and wildlife. The nearest town is Terran Ferry, and then the largest actual city is Berlon, that is up north of there. Edmund's Field people stay to themselves. So they live off of the land. They're all farmers and tobacco farmers, not just sheep and wheat, I think was the other one that they have there. But they truly just are very isolated. And a lot of the towns are like that in this world. So for them, their excitement comes when a stranger travels all the way down to Emmons Field. And it doesn't happen frequently. A peddler, which is someone who has a wagon led by lots of horses, comes down twice a year with goods and offers services, repairing things or selling items, and bringing news of the outside world because they are so isolated from everywhere else. So when the peddler shows up, in this case, a gentleman named Paddan Fane, uh, when that person shows up, there's a lot of excitement around them because they get to hear what's going on, right? Catch up on gossip from around the world. In their mind, the world, which is just their towns and the cities around them, and buy new items and get the few books that still exist, be able to trade for them, and then sell items also.
Yeah.
So, Greg, is that how's that for a stopping point before?
Okay. Actually, perfect. The introduction of Payton Fane in the Amazon series is fairly close to that. And the picture that's painted of the Two Rivers area, um, fairly close to that. You don't really get the economics piece to it, like I was talking about with the sheep and the wool trade and the tobacco. Um, they don't touch on that too much. It's just painted as being this quaint little village and buried in the mountains and in the woods, um, where these people live. And then Payton Fane, of course, the peddler, comes down around Beltane and to ply his wares and sell whatever he can. Um, Payton Fane is definitely the oddity coming into the area, and the way he's portrayed in the book is different from the way he's portrayed in the series. Because in the series, right from the very beginning, he's kind of the devious, mysterious. You can tell that he's a shit. I mean, in the series, I mean, yeah, in the Amazon series, you can just tell that this guy is there's something wrong with this guy. Um,
So he's a used car salesman. Is that
yeah,
what you're saying?
oh, absolutely. That's a perfect analogy. Absolutely perfect analogy. And his interact.
Scumbag.
Well, for all the used car salesmen out there in the world, you're not all bad. But yeah, I mean, coming into the story on in the series, he definitely, he just reeks of something bad's going to happen with this guy. The Ravens kind of come with him into Edmonds Field. Um,
Ooh, really?
yeah, yeah. So
Hmm.
it and he sets up his little cart. The only real interaction he has in the series, because he sets up his little cart, but not kind of like on the green. And the only real interaction he has is Matrim Cathan, who steals a bracelet from some random woman, a silver bracelet from some random woman in the inn, and basically trades it to Payton Fane to get these the lights, which they added this piece in there too. I don't think this is in the series, but essentially part of the Beltane piece is that they all get these. It's like a kind of a well, actually a very Eastern tradition, like the floating lights type of thing, where you put the candle inside the little
The floating lanterns?
shoot, yeah, yeah, and then put it out on the water, and it's
Yeah.
basically to represent honoring your ancestors, your loved ones that are gone, that type of thing. So Matrim steals this bracelet, and there's a very innocent reason behind it, with him wanting to get something for his little sisters because his parents are broke. They don't have any money. They're not gonna, he's kind of that role in the family. He's the older brother that cares for the younger siblings.
Wow, that's completely different from the book.
Yes, yes. Back to you, man, or go for it. That's the Payton Fane of Amazon,
Yeah,
Huh.
that's. I mean, the sleazy part. I mean, we learned that later. That is him actually
right?
later in book one. But I mean, he set up over at the inn, first of all, because, right, he had to get the horses put away, and the crowd, the entire town showed up around there in celebration of that. And that's where he told the story of war. And they were like, oh, the war is almost here. And we skipped Tom. But Tom's like, the war is so far away. That news is weeks old, even for out here, right? He brings up that whole thing, making fun of Fane. That is I mean, does it impact the story though?
Mm,
I think it takes away the importance of him to a village. And for you were saying they did a good job describing the village and the village life.
Yep.
But that's a big part of it, right? They don't
Right.
get visitors. They don't get people from outside.
Right.
They don't trust anyone from Terran Ferry. We hear that.
Or Devon's
right?
Ride.
Or yeah, definitely not. So when the peddler, the one outsider that they do trust, shows, right, they completely believe everything he says and does, and he knows that, obviously. The stealing part, though, for Matt,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even later in the series, he was a gambler.
Right.
He took chances. He didn't really steal. I mean, he did kidnap someone. We're not going to talk about the High Lady right now, but
Yeah, I was gonna say.
he
Yeah.
did that.
Well, that's
In his,
he was fated to do that.
but exactly, and in his defense, he did that out of necessity. I mean, that wasn't
correct. Correct. But the whole stealing part, especially a stranger in the inn. Well, the only one that was there was Moraine. The book was really
Right.
clear because there are no strangers.
Right.
Nobody goes there.
Peyton Fane wasn't really a stranger either, and
Right.
yeah, that strange lady that that he stole the bracelet from is like, who the hell's this? You know? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's just. I mean, they left off stuff, obviously.
I'm gonna move. Go ahead.
Let's go to the attack.
Yeah, I just want to move forward to that piece because you're gonna you'll love this. Okay, so in the series, the Trollocs actually attack Edmund's Field during Beltane. So everyone's there except for Rand. Rand and Tam decided to go home before dark. But the village is in the middle of the Beltane. They're all dancing and having fun, and Egwene is dancing with some young boy, and it all starts out with suddenly, this blade comes through his chest while they're dancing. And all hell breaks loose in the village. Thank you very much, Guardian Groot. So all hell breaks loose in the village, and here's the piece that is really going to get you on this. So Nynaeve actually gets drug away by a Trolloc.
And for what reason is that, pray tell?
We'll get there. I don't want to tell you that yet. We'll get there. But this happens right away. Nynaeve gets drug away by a Trolloc. So she's taken out of the story for the rest of the first episode and part of the second episode.
Well, looks like meat's back on the menu, boys.
That's right.
I wish.
Right. Yeah, she's not my favorite character. She's a pain in the ass.
So
all right, keep going though. I'm sorry,
okay.
Greg.
No,
you're still on the map.
Yeah, I am. I'll take that off
And
here.
welcome in Insomnia Night.
Yeah, Insomnia Night, Guardian Groot. Thank you guys for popping in with us. We're talking through book 1 of the Wheel of Time, The Eye of the World. And we've spent like almost an hour just on the first. I think we've just barely gotten past the introduction. But
we're about chapter 3, I think.
Maybe, yeah.
Chapters.
So all right, so we go through this battle in the village, and at the same time that this is happening, this piece they did get partially right. So at the same time that the attack on the village is happening, and there's also an attack at the Althor farm, which is where Rand Althor and his father Tam live. They've
Mhm.
returned home and they're getting ready for the evening. And see it in Rand's mind, in even in the series, in Rand's mind, his father is his father. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They
Right.
on their way back, they kind of show a little bit of what Rand was raised by this man. And Rand, he's got this weird sense as they're walking back home with their mule Bella. Um, it the it's not a mule, actually. It's like a pack horse or something. But that actually, that horse does. They do keep the horse in the series for a while as well. Um, so
Mm.
anyway, as they're going back home, Rand's got this really weird feeling like they're being watched and whatnot. He sees the strange man on the horse that the wind doesn't touch again, and him and Tam kind of start talking about stories, and it eases his mind. Then that night at dinner, they're getting ready to have dinner at the kitchen table, and this is when suddenly you know everything gets quiet. There's a knock at the door, type of thing, and at that point, Tam is like, okay, something's wrong. So Tam goes and opens up this old chest that obviously it's obvious that Rand is, he's known about the chest, but you really know what was in the chest. So
Mm.
Tam goes and opens up this old chest, and he pulls out this sword that's obviously been in this. I mean, if it wasn't a special sword, it probably would have been a pile of rust at this point. So he pulls out this sword and unsheathes it, and here it's a heron marked blade.
Mm.
And they at the Althor farm, they fight off these Trollocs. They literally fight off the Trollocs. And Tam gets injured, but Rand is able to take Tam on Bella back to Edmund's Field. That's the Amazon version.
Mhm. So that's
Yeah.
close. I mean,
Did they go over the elements? Because in the book, you know, Rand has to essentially drag his father all the way to
yeah.
the field. And there's obviously a dialogue there because Tam is severely wounded, and I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, again I read it just like last night. I'm pretty sure he dies, or he's at least he's close to death by the time they get to Edmund's Field,
He's
isn't he?
close.
Yeah, he
He's
doesn't
very
die.
close.
Okay, he doesn't die. Okay, I couldn't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, he's and obviously he's going over things. That's actually one thing, and again, I could it could be in later books that I just don't remember, but they don't go into his story as much as I would have liked. Like looking back on
That's the prequel.
is it in the prequel?
Yeah, the prequel is his story.
Okay, then I
So
really have to
that's
reread that.
what
Book
new spring
15.
is it? New Spring?
Yep, New
Is that
Spring.
what it's
Yeah,
Yep,
called?
it's Miss
yep.
Spring. Okay, I'm gonna have to reread that because I always, for the longest time, and I know I have the book because the book, the title of the book rings a bell, so I know I bought it, and it's probably sitting back home in New York somewhere.
Yeah.
In a
And
pile of books.
I'll tell you, it's not a complete book because Robert Jordan passed
Mm.
before he was able to write it. It was supposed to be. It's another one of those where it was supposed to be a trilogy, um, and but he only wrote book one.
Uh, oh, I'm surprised they didn't get Sanderson to finish that one then.
But it did not do well. Sales
It did not
were
do.
right. You're now you. I think it was after book 11, 10 or
Mhm.
11
Yep.
is when he came out
Oh,
with this, and you're so heavily invested in that story to now go backwards and talk
oh,
about what happened beforehand.
Right.
It just and that's why it just didn't do well in the market. There wasn't good reception on it.
that's a shame because I honestly that was, after rereading that first bit, I remember Tam's character, and I mean, obviously he had some important things to reveal to his son, and I had wished that they had gone more into his story because. So for those of you who've never read the series, as Greg pointed out, when Tam draws the blade, there's a heron mark on the near the hilt near the cross guard of the sword, and in the Wheel of Time universe, that's very significant. Basically it denoted that Tam was a blade master, and that is something that very, very, very few individuals ever reach. And the thing is, to keep your sigil, as they call it, you have to fight, meaning someone can come challenge you to then take your blade. So I mean, either he challenged someone and won it, or I don't really know if there's a other way to get it besides challenging a current blade master. Like if there's
Well,
a
the
can't remember
so the
if
Heron Mark blades are power wrought blades,
yes,
and
that they're
yeah,
not
Correct.
ordinary.
so they were most all of them ideally were made during the second age, and the ability to make them has been forgotten
Yes,
or lost for the most part. So I mean those blades are the ones that are there are the ones that are there. It's not like there's more of them being made and given out to people. So at this point.
Oh, don't worry. Elaine will figure out how to do that.
Elaney, yeah, she is.
Yeah, let Elaine take care of it. I mean, she
uh,
can do all things.
yeah.
Wow, we're jumping way ahead with that one, but yeah.
All right. Yeah. So, the book, let's talk about the differences between the scene that you just talked about, which was in this series.
Mhm.
In the book, the attack did not happen during the festival. It happened the night before the festival. Literally, the uh, Rand and Tam made it to town, to the Wine Spring Inn, dropped off the items that they brought with them, their casks, and we're heading back home for the night. And we're going to come back the next morning to attend the festival. The attack was close to how the series is. The only difference is Rand took the sword out beforehand. He did not wait until there was a bang, and then he went upstairs or to the upper level, pull out the chest, grab the sword out. He did that when they were prepping for dinner, because the book even says Rand was surprised that one, his father had the sword, and two, that he actually had it there. And his
Mhm.
father Tam makes a comment like, "Well, with all the war and strangers might be in the area, it's always good to be prepared." Other than that, Bella ran away. They did not have that because Rand had to make uh, something to carry his father back
Yep. Mm.
on that. Because we even hear later on where that they're like, "Oh, we saw the horse came back by itself, all frothing at the mouth, but you weren't there, so we were really worried." Um, but I think everything else, and they did not fight and beat all the Trollocs in the book. Rand went out the window and ran, and his father distracted the Trollocs by running in the opposite direction and drawing them with him. And then Rand went back, found him, then went in the house, got some bandages because he saw his father was injured, was starting to burn up with the fever, saw the sword, grabbed it along with his bow, and went back to his father and started to try to make it back to the town.
And then making it back to the town. So when they made it back to the town in the series, um, at this point, most of the town had been busted up, and part of it, Moiraine had actually tore, like the inn itself. Moiraine used the power to pull the stones, the large, basically river stones, out of the building and throw them at these Trollocs that were attacking, and there were literally like hundreds of Trollocs. And between her and Lan and pretty much her and Lan defeated all these Trollocs that attacked the village. Um, some of the others, I'm sure, were fighting in there, and towards the end, you see the people of the village kind of starting to fight back. And then right, okay, so as Rand and Tam come back into town, at this point, Moiraine's been going around healing everybody, and So this is where they use the opportunity to kind of explain that piece of the power. They show her using the power as a weapon, but rightly so, because she is Aes Sedai and she is defending herself and her warder. She literally puts herself in the middle of these Trollocs so that she can do this and start killing all these Trollocs. She gets hit in this fight. She gets injured by I think it's just a sword that gets thrown at her like a dagger or something. Might have been an arrow. So she gets hit in the shoulder, and obviously gets the infection from this tainted weapon. So she's really weak, but she's spending all of her strength to heal people. So she heals Tam, and basically exerts a lot of her power to heal Tam, because Tam is also injured the same way she is by one of these Trollocs weapons. And then you see this huge army coming up in the mountains, and Lan explains to these kids that who they are, essentially, that they need to come with her because the Trollocs are coming for them, and explains to them that they are special. And so at that point, Nynaeve is already gone because she was drug away by the Trollocs, so they think Nynaeve is dead. Moiraine and Lan gather up Matrim, Pern, Rand, and Egwene, and they take them away from Edmund's Field because they know that the Trolloc army that's coming will go after them, and not Edmund's Field, because that's who they really want, is these kids. And I'm going to stop right there.
Wow. They already took a lot of liberties there.
Yes, they did.
So she used the power as a weapon, which goes against her oaths. Even putting herself in the middle of them, which is, I don't know how you could run to be in the middle of a group like that, but okay. Damaging the Wine Spring Inn, absolutely would not do that, right? Especially Blue Aja nature, which is what she does in the books, right? Calls lightning down balls of fire, natural nature, using the elements that are available. That's what she would do, not destroy a building to heave rocks. Why don't we just, do people have slings? Maybe we can just start using slings and David and Goliath here. That sounds a little weird. And her taking damage, you're going to tell me somehow someone got damage on her and Lan didn't go completely crazy?
Yeah.
And come on, if she had gotten any danger like that, Lan would have been all over. Everybody would have been dead. I mean, literally, he would have just lost it and killed everyone in like half a second. She can't heal herself,
Right.
and we know that any damage from the Dark One's weapons cannot be healed normally. Has to, right? She has is it a Tarangriel, or does she have a Sarangriel? I always get them mixed.
She has a Tyrangrel.
Tara. She has all right. So Tara, the female ones. She has a Tarangriel, and that's what she uses on Tam. That's the only thing that she could use. She has to channel through that to heal and remove that. So if she were injured by one of those weapons as opposed to a normal one, I mean, if it were normal, okay, maybe.
When in the books, she actually does this healing in the one of the rooms in the Wine Spring Inn, but in the Amazon story, she does it out on the green, because there is no Wine Spring Inn.
She destroyed it.
Yeah, blew it up.
So yeah, see, I got to go with the book. The book was much better, and I think more realistic than, especially with the one power and the way that she used it for her Aja. That's just not what she would have done. Right? I mean, red would definitely do that. Like, oh, whatever. Even white, I could see doing that, but blue, no.
So I'm going to answer that question you asked now really quick because and I'm pretty sure there's probably others that as I'm really going through this that I'll be able to be like, yeah, never mind that one. This one's the one. But right now I'm going to say the Landrill.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like her. She is
Really?
yeah.
Wow.
Well, and they changed when we get there.
No, don't tell me they changed her. She's so easy to hate.
Yes,
the way she is.
Yes, her story is different in the series. Yeah, yeah, way different.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh man, that. All right. Well, when we get to that part where we're introduced to her and her Aja, you can make me even angrier because you're stalling so much to talk about Perrin and the fight.
Yes. Yes.
Because you know that's my trigger. That
well,
and Rob's gone, so you could safely do it. And when I go off, he won't be here for.
No, well, I can still hear y'all.
Well, we got to back up just a little bit at this point to get to that.
Should we talk about Tom? Actually, we haven't covered Tom at all.
Well, but Tom hasn't come into the story yet in the Amazon version.
Yeah.
Tom doesn't show up until they actually. Tom doesn't show up until they get to Barrowline, but it takes a really weird turn. So we're
still in episode 1.
Yeah,
we're in episode 1, and it's already taken lots of weird turns. So
for the folks who don't know, Garrus, would you like to kind of give a brief synopsis on what Ajas are? Because we do have some folks here who've never read the books.
Yeah, absolutely. So within there's a group, an organization called the White Tower, and it's physically a white tower at a base of a mountain.
Made of Swindiller.
Yes.
Made during the Age of Legends.
Correct. Known as the Fourth Age, I believe. Third or Fourth Age. The people who can yield the one power, as it's called, the magic, quote unquote magic, in this world are all female. They all belong to this White Tower, and within this organization, there are different groups, and they're each by a color. They all have a different philosophy of how they see things and how they handle things. So the White Aja is, if you think of Vulcans in Star Trek, they're very logic focused. Everything has to have a logical conclusion or have a logical meaning to it. The Brown Aja are the bookworms. They're all about knowledge. They want to know everything there is. They pay no attention to anything except getting that knowledge. So if you put a book in front of them, they will forget everything, including to eat, drink, because they're so focused on that. The green
anything interesting to a brown, and they're like, oh, squirrel, and off they go.
Yeah, I haven't seen that squirrel before. Wait, I must follow it and study its habits for the next 6 months.
Right.
That is them. That they just want to gather knowledge because so much has been lost in this age, which is later in the books. We'll get into that. The green Aja is the fun Aja. They're the party animals. They love their men. And they love to party, sing, dance. They're all strong fighters, by the way. Every group is incredibly powerful.
The green also refer to themselves as the Battle Aja.
Yes, they do. And we'll talk about warders. I think we didn't really talk about them. So, Greg, we can probably let you talk about what a warder is and what their role is. The blue Aja, which is Moraine is a member of the Blue Aja, is more about nature and trying to have a balance in things. We have a yellow Aja, we have a red Aja. Did I miss anyone?
No, you did. You missed one, but that one's
I'm not talking about them. I'm not going to talk about them yet.
Okay. All right.
I think I mean, I guess we did mention them, didn't we?
No,
so I guess I should.
Not Well, I don't think we did yet. I mean, we kind of we mentioned some things, but not that Aja.
Yeah, because nobody acknowledges that group, right? It doesn't exist.
That's right.
It's
How could there possibly be?
no. But so they're all good. Here, I'll put it that way. All these colors are good Ajas. Their job is to prevent the breaking of the world by the dragon reborn. How they get there is what separates the Ajas from each other. The Reds believe if you kill him when he's born, then he can't break the world because he's dead. Or worst case, you still or control him, meaning you take his power away.
Right.
Um, the blues see it differently. The whites are very different. Actually, all of them are very different. The browns are like, no, let it happen. You know how much we could learn if he breaks the world again? Just totally oblivious to the consequences, but all about knowledge. So those are the good ones. I'll let you talk about the other one and
What?
Warders.
Yeah, I'll do. I'm not gonna do the other one yet because I think that we bring that out when it would come out in the story would be a good idea with that because there is one more Aja to talk about. And we'll get to that. So Warders first, and then I'm gonna talk about this one particular sister, which all of the Ajas, they're all female. All the people who can use the one power safely are female. So Warders, these guys, and they are all guys for now.
Yep.
They basically they are the sword and shield of the Aes Sedai. Because they take care of all the mundane things. So basically, and they are bonded to their Aes Sedai, which is what that means is there's a special bond between the two of them. The warder gets increased stamina, increased will. I mean, they basically become more or less like a super soldier, I guess you could say. They're able to hone their skills. They're able to sense when there's tainted beings in the area. They can sense the location and the basically they can tell when their Aes Sedai is injured. They can tell when she's feeling, off or bad, or if there's anything wrong at all, they can tell. So that they know to come running if her mood changes or her well-being changes, they know that, oh shit, I gotta go.
Well, wasn't there if I remember in the story, to become a warder, you had to have some kind of ceremony with the Aes Sedai, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, the linking.
Yep. That's
or the bonding. Excuse me.
Yep. That's the bond. Not just anybody in this age. Not just anybody can be a warder either. Now, an Aes Sedai can actually bond anyone they want to. And it used to be, the kind of the lore piece to the story is that they used to take whoever they wanted as their warder. That was just how that worked. And they used to bond people without permission. That's taboo at this point. Bonding a
but
male.
They still can.
They still can, yes. But it's
and turn them
definitely frowned upon. Yes, they can. They can turn them to the dark as well. So that's the warder in a nutshell. This is a guy who can stay awake for days on end. He can run for miles. If he has to, he can pick up his Aes Sedai and run with her for miles. I mean, he's definitely somebody you do not want to mess with. And then on top, now they don't have necessarily like hair and marked blades or anything like that, but they do have a cloak, and it's a very specific cloak. Because this cloak is the easiest way for me to describe it is chameleon. So it literally allows them to blend in like perfectly with their surroundings, where you could see this warder walking along, and as if he was completely enveloped in that cloak, he may look like a disembodied head floating along, because it blends so well with their surroundings. And that's one of the things that they get as a warder is that cloak. And then they get some very intense training, which most of the time that's where the warders come from. Is people go to the White Tower to become Aes Sedai, and they also, males go to the White Tower to become a warder, because warders are looked at as being, the finest warriors in the land, essentially. So that's the warriors, or that's the warders piece. Really quickly, I want to talk on the prophecy. The prophecy of the dragon, because this piece to the story kind of comes into play early on, talking about the prophecy of the dragon. In the book, it's a little later. You don't find out about this until they actually get to the White Tower. In the series, they start introducing this kind of here. And they introduce a young Suen Sanchez. She's a Terran, and she's not a noble. She's the daughter of a fisherman. So she's lived her whole life on the rivers in Tyr, as the fisherman's daughter. But they have a secret. In Tyr, use of the one power isn't exactly legal, but it is definitely frowned upon. Anyone they find that is a channeler basically gets bundled off and sent to the White Tower, because they don't want any of that. Tyr is a kind of, I would say, probably closer to like a Puritan society in many ways.
But yet they have the largest collection.
Yeah, but yet they have the largest collection of the Tyrian Grail in the world. Yeah,
in the world, even more than the tower itself.
So Suan, they show this picture of Suan, and Suan is a fisherman's daughter, and essentially her father sends her away because she has this power, and she ends up using this power by accident and burns down their home or something like that. I think there's like a dragon's fang or something that ends up getting painted on their door. So her father sends her away, tells her, you need to go. It's the safest thing for you. You need to go. So that piece is in the series, but not in the books. Prophecy. So the prophecy comes in. Actually, I should probably wait a little bit. I'm jumping the gun a little bit with the prophecy piece.
Yeah, don't go there yet, because
Okay.
it's still in book 1.
Yep.
Where the vision happens and the prophecy.
Yep.
And all that. We got a ways to go.
So
we're still in the attack.
There's so much that happens.
You really want to talk about that attack
yes,
piece.
I need Rob to hear.
So what happens during this whole thing? Because Perrin's story is already jacked up because he's not married in the books.
No, it's not. No, it's not jacked up yet.
Oh, it gets worse. Okay, fantastic. That's what I love to hear.
So, all right. So, you want to? I'm just going to give you the vice versa here. So, all right. In the book, there is no attack. Okay. Where Perrin is involved in fighting Trollocs in Edmund's Field.
No, from what I remember, they're all like literally holed up in the inn, and it's mostly Lan and Moraine doing all the fight.
From the show.
Oh.
From the show.
Oh.
In the show, there's the big attack and all that nonsense that happens.
Okay.
In the books, it's a little different, because I believe there is an attack, but they only hit specific places.
Yes.
Only specific places. And they are literally
families.
Right. They're the Cathan family, Almera family. Oh well, there's not really an Almera family, but Cathan family, Abera family, and
And
Alwyn
Althor.
and
Al-
Althor.
And then sporadic
Yeah.
in the village as distractions is how it was described.
Yep. Now, here, that's how it was described at this point, and I'm going to give away a little teaser here and say this. There are a lot of people in the Two Rivers that can channel. So it's a little difficult to, because at this point, the Dark One knows that someone special is going to come out of the Two Rivers. But he doesn't know who it is. I'll stop right there. Who wants to pick that up?
You're just not going to say it. Okay, I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
So in the TV series, during this fight that's happening there is a combat situation where Perrin is fighting the Trollocs and kills his wife because he has rage issues and is blinded by his rage.
Well, in the scene, okay, so you got to paint the scene right because
there is no right; it should not exist.
Well, no, but it starts.
With that.
It starts out with them in sleeping in the bed, okay, and of course there's a little bit of talking there, and the woman the wife is kind of like pretending to sleep, and they make that kind of obvious. Well, then this attack happens, all right. And him and his wife is what it seems like. Him and his wife are fighting off the Trollocs, okay? And they get down to it kind of focuses on Perrin. You see the wife kind of fighting, but it focuses on Perrin. And he gets down to the last one, and he hears something coming up behind him. He's got his axe at this point. Here's something coming up behind him, so he just instinctively, out of rage, just hauls off and bam! And it happens to be his wife. And the wife actually has her weapon raised like she was getting ready to attack something. And the only something they're left to attack is Perrin.
You remember that from the book, right, Rob?
No.
No?
Not any of it.
That's weird. Here, let me look at the book and I'll read you. Oh, wait, it's not in there at all. He doesn't know how to fight in the book. We learned
He's
that.
A kid.
He's a
None
kid.
of them
all
do.
of them. The
Yeah,
oldest
none of
one
them do.
is Egwene at 16 years old, because this Beltane is when she could finally braid her hair. This was the first time she was able to do it.
Yep.
Okay. None of them were able, right? Well, I mean, she's the only female of the group,
I think the
really.
only one who could potentially fight, and I say this loosely, were Rand, because his father taught him about the whole flame thing.
Yep.
But he was more of an archer at this point.
It was only archery, correct.
And then Matt, because his dad always won the melee, because he was, aside from being a drunk, he's actually pretty decent with the staff.
They could all do archery, but Pern just wasn't. He was. I would say it this way, and I think it's actually described this way in the books. He's better than like your average Joe Blow going and picking up a bow and arrow, but he's still not really that good. Where the people in the Two Rivers, are really, archery is kind of their thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because they hunt for a living to get food on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But yeah, no, it's and that when that scene happened, that was it for me. I just stopped, because you cannot change a character, a major character. Like, he's one of the three, and you made him now a 1 killer, 2 rage issues, because he was raging. He turned into a barbarian in the world of D&D and was strictly raging. You can't do that.
A wife that didn't exist.
And now he's married. So wait, that's weird, because when throughout books 1 and 2, all 3 of them were awkward, And they kept saying, "Oh, I wish I was the other person talking to her because he's so much better." Right? They just did that. None of them had any experiences whatsoever. See, Greg knows. He knew this was going to get me going.
Well,
I've
again,
made
here's the thing, and I know we're probably getting off on a bit of a tangent here. I understand taking some creative liberties when you're adapting a piece of material from one medium to the next. Again, I mean, I'll circle back to the Lord of the Rings movies. Peter Jackson did take some liberties, did change a couple of things. Um, and you have some diehard fans who are like, he did a terrible job, but for the most part, people accept that he's kept true to the source material. He didn't change any of the major characters in any major way. I mean, though, to be fair, I think Christopher Lee probably would have slit his throat if he had, because Christopher Lee actually knew Tolkien. Like, Christopher
Mhm.
Lee and Tolkien actually knew each other, so he would have. I'm pretty sure Christopher Lee would have taken issue. Rip Christopher Lee. He's a genius actor. Anyway, um, so again, I'm open to that, but yeah, you don't take a major character or a major plot point or a major theme and change it to fit whatever. Like this is this
It's a reimagining.
this is gonna be a hot take, I guess, to use the term. But a lot of these screenwriters and writers in Hollywood, they're full of themselves. You're not as good a writer as Robert Jordan. You're not as good as writer as Andrei Sapkowski, the creator of The Witcher. You're not as good as writer as Tolkien. For the idiots at Amazon who did Rings of Power, stop. You're not. You're not even close.
but you
Because
know
if you
what?
were, you would have written a book.
You're going to make me do this, and this is so weird. I'm going to defend them. You know
Nope.
what? They don't have to be,
Exactly.
because all they have to do is they have access to an IP. All they have to do is make it good enough to get renewed. So as long as the network is making money on it, they don't care. Right? I mean, we see that even with the new Dune movie. They changed significant parts of it.
Mhm.
And it's a movie about a desert now, right? If you cut all the desert scenes out, you can probably fit this into one single movie instead of, we have 2 out of the 3 so far.
Mhm.
But you change key elements, who cares? You're going to get people coming in that are going to spend money. The studio is going to make money, right? And that's good enough for them. It's not about being true to the material. And
Right.
so for those of us who swear by the books and love them, it's hard when you're like, they're finally right. Oh, Wheel of Time. And Greg, I'm sure you were like this. When we
Whoa.
first heard that they were doing it, this is going to be great. And then you saw the actors that they're going to be in those roles, and you're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
well, I
Yeah.
think that's okay. Right? A little doubt starts creeping in. And then you start hearing, oh, it's an adaptation. Oh boy.
Mhm.
Right there we go. All that dreaded word is coming up, and they don't care. They really don't. If anything, they don't want, the quote unquote fanboys, the diehard grognards, however you want to call us. They don't want us to like it. If anything, go ahead, post these videos on how much you hate it, because people are going to watch it and be like, oh, I got to check this out. Wait, is it really that bad? And you're going to get some of those that are going to keep the right. Negative press is still press,
Yeah, totally.
right? I mean,
Right.
look at, and Land Fear, one of my absolute favorites. I love Land Fear in the books,
Mhm.
and how Marin was, um, the actress who did it, not who I envisioned to be, the most beautiful woman
Right.
in history who could tempt Luz Theron, Telamon, away from Ilyena, and try to turn him, and then be yet him being so charismatic and so handsome that it would pull her away, and she was willing to walk away from the Dark One to be with him, right? That's not, I mean, just look what we get.
Yeah. Yep.
Eh.
So I,
Sorry, man.
Oh no, you're good. I agree with you. And again, I mean, you're not wrong. Again, it's
You made
about
me
getting.
friggin' defend this series that I despise, man.
It's about
Oh,
getting
how dare you?
greenlit for another season. It's about all that stuff.
so
And
let's talk about Watsy and how great they are. What do you think,
uh,
Rob?
I mean, I don't know. They just lost their CEO, so who knows? Who knows what's going on there? Um, again, I'm open for some creative freedom and liberties taken when you're adapting story a book to a different medium, whether it be a game or movie or show. I get it, but you keep the core and the heart of the story the same. You can change the small elements, but come on, like what are you guys doing? And again, it's disrespect for the source material. And we
Yeah.
the sad part is we've seen how that goes every single freaking time, and it never goes well.
And I hate to tell you, it's greed.
Yeah, yeah,
Right. The families, right? In all these instances, the author who worked on them has passed.
yeah, yeah,
And now it's, the estates are able to make it. And I'll pick on Dune, and not to switch, but Frank Herbert was very much Dune will not be sold. You cannot, right? There was one board game made for Dune. There was a movie made for Dune. And there was no marketing, right? There was no merchandising, no t-shirts, no, right? He kept, while he was here, he did not want to dilute the Dune story and its impact. He passed, right? His son took over, and then the family is involved. And now, there's video games, movies. We had a TV miniseries that was done. I don't know, in the '90s, I think it was,
yeah.
late '90s,
That's
early
one of the shows.
2000s.
Yeah, that's one of the
Um,
shows I grew up on, which I liked,
right?
but this was before I read the books.
Yeah.
Like I
And
saw
and
the movie
so,
in
there's like 8 different board games, right? It's been diluted, and
19.
Dune is all over the place with that because the estate's like, hey, you're going to pay money? Sure. It's not about quality control, it's about money. Prince,
Hmm.
to switch over, a perfect example. Prince's catalog and his music, you didn't hear his music in commercials,
No.
right? Very few movies had his
Mhm.
music other than like in Batman.
Yeah.
But you just he would not do that. Now Target uses a Prince song in their commercials. They have licensed 2 songs of his because the estate's like, oh, you're going to pay us money? Sure, we can do that. Target. I mean, as opposite as he would ever go with, um, and so the money speaks. And with the authors out of the picture, the estates are just like, you're going to throw how much money at me for that? Okay.
So
Yeah, couldn't be me. Couldn't
I
be my work.
I gotta take just a moment here and make sure that Shadow Riddlebox gets her money's worth. Because she decided that
Chicken dance.
Chicken Dance was what we needed to be listening to. So here we go.
What? Chicken Dance Remix.
I'm a little worried.
Yeah, I'm
I put that out there because people weren't saving channel points, and
Oh, look, 10 seconds in an ad. Yay. No chicken dance for me.
but yeah, I don't know.
I love a
It's
Chicken
a
Dance.
shame. It's a shame because yeah, I think Garrus, you're correct. You have these authors that have come out with these creators. I'm not even not just authors who have come out with these fantastic pieces of uh, film, literature, et cetera, and you know the estate that takes over that license and that takes control of that IP seemingly does whatever the fuck they want.
All right, I gotta redirect you guys because that's starting to sound like an episode of the update log, and we're
Yep.
we're
Yeah.
talking about the Wheel of Time tonight. So,
So the attack happens, and then they leave the town. There we go.
Yeah, they finally
yes,
skied out.
So actually, I don't think we answered Rob's question, and I don't know the answer. So this is on you, Greg. When Rand and Tam leave the farm after the attack there, and Tam is in fever, right? He's hallucinating. The fever is absolutely destroying him. Does he say not all of them, but does he say that backstory that makes Rand start questioning
he
his
does.
good?
He does.
Okay.
At least they kept that piece.
Yeah. So they did keep that piece in where Tam is, incoherently talking, just kind of randomly talking, and talking to his dead wife, and basically
Carrie.
it comes out, as Rand is listening to this, it comes out that Tam is not actually Rand's father. So that now begins to play same, that they did follow in the series, that now begins to play on Rand's mind, that possibly this man who he's always thought was, this is my dad, even though I don't look anything like him.
Yeah, that's the funny part. He looks nothing, and I like Robert Jordan for that because
Yeah, but he looked like his mom.
describes-
Remember that.
Yep.
They make reference that he looked like his mom. So in his mind, he justified it that way.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. So yes, and that is there's a tricky part there that seems like there was two thoughts going on. I'm going to get off story myself now for a moment, but there's a tricky piece there that seems like there were two thoughts going on when Robert Jordan wrote this, because he writes about the birth of the dragon on Dragonmount.
Yep, on the hills of Dragonmount in the snow, the scream. Yes.
Right. And the mother dies
Correct.
in the birth. Okay. But now Tam's wife is an awful lot like, in appearance wise, is an awful lot like an ale woman.
But we hear about that later, right? They kind of explain it.
Right. Well,
where she was a maiden of the spear.
Those are my favorite. Those are my hands down
right.
my favorite.
And here's the thing, though. Lore-wise, the mother of the dragon reborn was not ale. Not like by blood ale. She was actually Carhenian, but she went into the ale wastes, and because of her daring and her I mean, can you imagine a little frail, pasty white Carhenian woman walking through the desert with this determination that she had to be there with no idea, how to survive, how to live, or anything else. And the Maidens of the Spear basically took her in and taught her how to be a maiden, and that's how that happened.
And they almost didn't, right? When we hear the story, she had been turned away, and it was her stubbornness, something we hear a lot about from people from Edmonds Falls. Her stubbornness is what got them to accept her as a maiden. So yeah, to your point, Carhenian, who wouldn't look like an ale, all of a sudden gave birth to one that's an ale. And yeah, right. He was tall, redhead, everything that showed that he was one of them. Even later on in the books, book 2, book 3, everywhere after that.
Her husband, her husband, Rand's father, was actually an ale chief.
He was a chief, correct.
Yep.
And I can't remember, how deep into her story did we get? It didn't. Right. It just left it off from what we hear in book 1. And we didn't, like, when he gets back there, he doesn't even try to find anything out. There's
Well,
nothing.
around the time of so Rand goes to Ryodan and goes through that piece and finds out
Yeah.
that he is he who comes with the dawn. And then on the journey back, when they're heading to the septs to essentially get all the septs together and disclose that this person is he who comes with the dawn, is when he gets this story. And I believe that it's Ames and Sorley that
Yeah,
kind
it
of
is.
tell him this story about his mother.
Yeah. Boy, we're really jumping all over the
Yeah,
place.
we are.
Okay, so the fight and then leaving.
So I'm actually gonna fast forward just a little bit. I'm gonna cover a couple of highlights from the series piece, and I'm gonna move us into Barrelane so that we can
Barrelon? Excellent.
so we can introduce some other key characters. So all right,
Min, come on, let's admit Min is the coolest
yeah,
of the characters there. Of the supporting character. She's not a main, but she's a supporting character.
At this point, you're right.
Yeah.
Right. I think later she does become. She's not like
She
a
does.
main.
She's
main,
one
but
of the
later
three.
she does. Yeah. Okay. Now we're really we can't go there. We got to back away from that.
Yep.
Okay, so in the series, all right, so there's this journey out of the two rivers. Okay, obviously in the series it starts out kind of in the morning, leaving Edmund's Field. After Tame's been healed, and you see the Trolloc army coming, so they take off, and they're traveling with Lan and Moraine, and as they're traveling, they get away from the Edmonds Field area, and they come to a kind of like a cave where Lan has left some supplies, and they stay the night there. Well, at this point, there's a rift that's growing between the Edmonds Field people. Okay, because Matrim Cathan, he doesn't trust anybody and doesn't really want to be away from his family, yada, yada, yada. Pern is, having anger issues, and Pern is really into Egwene, apparently, at this point. But Egwene's...
What?
Egwene is really just wants to be an Aes Sedai and doesn't... She actually tells Rand that they're done. It's, nothing here. And of course, Nynaeve is gone because the Trollocs ate her. So they stay overnight at this place, and when they stay overnight at this place, they all have a dream about crows. All right, and it's essentially one of the Forsaken that is interacting with them. So the next morning, they get up, and Matt and Rand actually somewhere in here get split off from the group. So Matt and Rand go to Barreling.
Whoa. Shadar Logoth. They went in the city.
Oh, that's right. Never mind.
No. Wait, that's after Barrelon.
No.
It's before Barrelon.
In the book, it's after Barrelon. In the series, it's before Barrelon.
It's before, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
You're
you
right.
Gotta cover that.
So the group takes off, and obviously the Trollocs, are catching them. They're catching up to them. So they they're trying their hardest to run away. And Lan of all people. So they get to this place where they're hiding and whatnot. Trollocs show up. They're running as hard as they can. Lan of all people comes up with this idea. He knows where they can go, somewhere where the Trollocs won't follow them. So they go to this place. It's a city that it was originally called Arid Hole. Okay, it was basically like a city state. And I'm not going to give you the lore behind that, but basically it is now called Shader Logoth, and it's a dead city. So they go into this city to hide from the Trollocs, and the Trollocs absolutely will not go into this city. Okay, so they go into this city to hide from the Trollocs, and this is where Matt does find the dagger in the series as well. He finds the dagger, but Matt kind of wanders off on his own and finds the dagger. He doesn't find anything else. Just finds the dagger there. Okay, and that awakens Shader Logoth, basically the actual
Mashadar.
Mashadar. There you go. Yeah, and in the series, Mashadar takes out one of their horses, but ends up chasing them all out of the city. No Trollocs or anything like that. Just Mashadar, and they're trying to escape Mashadar. And during this, as they're trying to escape Mashadar, Rand and Matt get separated. Matt now has the dagger. Okay, Rand and Matt get separated from Lan and Moiraine and Egwene. And so the two parties take off in their own direction, basically. Matt and Rand end up in Barrowloin, and I'm going to stop that right there because there's some big changes that I want to talk about with that. And then so Matt and Rand have no idea what's going on with the other group. They don't even know if they're still alive. They don't know if Egwene's still alive. They don't know if Moiraine's still alive or Lan's still alive. So the Lan, Moiraine, and Egwene getting out of this city. Moiraine is basically continually getting worse at this point. She's getting sicker and sicker and sicker.
Oh no.
And
I know where you're going with this. Please don't tell me
and-
they actually did that.
And well, now here's what ends up happening. So Lan doesn't really know what to do with her. Okay, so he's doing his best to try to keep her comfortable and protect her. With Pern and with Egwene, and Pern and Egwene actually no, Pern and Egwene get separated as well. So you have Matt and Rand are separated. Pern and Egwene go off, and then you have Lan and Moiraine. So at this point, Lan and Moiraine don't have any idea whether the kids are still alive or not. And suddenly, lo and behold, guess who shows up?
Oh,
Egwene!
Big cooking pot, huh?
Egwene, yes! Leaps from the cooking pot. No, she shows back up. Apparently, she was...
Nynaeve, you mean?
Yeah, Nynaeve. Apparently, she was able to track them because she's a master tracker now. She was able to track them all the way from where she ended up fighting off this. Okay, so this Trolloc grabbed her by the hair. Yeah, the hair yanking thing. Somebody else decided they wanted to yank it too, I guess. Grabbed her by the hair and drug her out into the woods. And then that Trolloc came across another Trolloc that was injured and decided that, rather than let that meat go to waste, so he kills the other Trolloc and begins eating him. And while they're doing the whole cannibalism thing, Nynaeve escapes and gets away from this Trolloc and tracks the rest of her friends to Shader Logoth, where she finds Lan Mandragoran, and actually it is able to sneak up on this warder. Okay, so she's not only really powerful in the one power, she's like super badass chick here. And she's, the herbalism and all that stuff, so she Lan subdues her. But she's the one who ends up treating Moiraine. Obviously, she can't cure the injury, but she's able to slow the poison enough that the three of them can get back on the road. I'm gonna stop right there because there's plenty of you got plenty to work with and tear this part. But
yeah, no, I don't.
that's just not the story. I mean, You know?
I mean, I get some of it works, but a lot of it just doesn't. Yeah, it just doesn't work. It doesn't make sense.
When the whole
And
all of them get separated, and the pairings that they did was like, what?
yeah, I mean, I understand the separation, right? Because it happens in the books.
Yep.
The characters each go, or groups of characters are separated. But it's, when Rand and Matt are running away, um, Moraine and Land see them, and they're riding the horse toward them. They tell them to stop because Mashadar is coming across the street, and they're like, "Oh, go around," right? And Egwene, it's just I Rob, you take it. It's very different in the books.
I
It's still
did.
chaotic, right?
I
We have a boat that's there that this is where Tom becomes even more important. Tom in the books happened before the attack, and he's with them at this point. Right? He teaches them how to juggle
mhm,
and how to earn
I think
coin,
so, yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
right? So that if something happens to him,
Yeah.
they have some way to survive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Nineve, gosh. Yeah, so she can fight like a warder. She can track better than a warder, can hide his tracks, and she can sneak up on a warder.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A warder who is hyper aware of his surroundings because his Aes Sedai is injured.
Mm-hmm.
And yet somehow she's able to do all that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, and she could heal from damage that was done by Dark One's weapon somehow.
Mm-hmm. Slow the poison.
Slow it, right. What normally would take Yellow Sisters to do, or have uh, oh, wow, yeah, that's a bit different.
Well,
But okay.
in the book, Shader Logoth does not come until after they've all been to Barrel, because they all go to Barrowline. That's actually
Yeah,
the first introduction to the Children of the Light is in Barrowline.
sure is. Isn't that? Aren't they wonderful?
Oh, wonderful, absolutely.
Did they do them justice in the TV series? At least, can you tell me that?
Actually,
I
they
hope
they
so.
they they kind of did. They kind of
Good.
did. Eamon Valda is it. They brought him in. Okay, so Eamon Valda is really only mentioned in book one. You don't really meet
Yeah,
Eamon Valda in book one. But in the series, you meet Eamon Valda, and you meet Lord Captain Bornhold in the
absolutely.
series.
And his son.
Nope, not in the series, not right away. But they do begin to introduce Lord Captain Bornhold, and they introduce Valda. They introduce Valda by, I think they took a piece out of like book 4, book 5, and put it into the series in the first episodes, because you basically, there's a White Cloak camp, and it's Valda's camp, him and his questioners, whatever, the Croc and shepherds.
Yep, those are questioners.
And so, and the scene is him burning an Aes Sedai. Basically
What?
has her tied to a stake, and he's cut her hands off. He's cut her hands
Okay.
off,
Even
and
White Cloaks wouldn't do that.
he's burning her at the stake. And while he has this, he makes a deliberate point out of picking up one of her hands and pulling the ring off, and cleaning the ring off, and then clipping it on this chain that he has on his belt that has a whole bunch of these rings. And he periodically will take that bunch of rings and kind of shake it in his hand for emphasis as he meets people and is talking
I
to
can't
people.
I can't remember, but in the books, because that right there. I know
That's
that. I
not
mean,
that's not the same. It's not Eamon Velda.
no,
No.
the white cloaks are obviously very they're essentially religious fanatics. But in the
They're
books, I don't think they would be that stupid to provoke the White Tower in such a like on the nose way. And I can't. And again, I have to reread the books, but I can't remember any instance where like they're that overt.
Not this early.
Yeah, exactly.
Not
Not
this
that early.
early. No, and that's the series piece. They definitely wanted to play up the. Yeah, I don't want to. I very easy for me to get a little political here, but that's they wanted to play up certain
Yeah.
cultural aspects that are predominant in our psyche, and you can tell that, you can see it.
Mhm.
so men bad, women good.
Yeah,
I'll say it.
yeah,
I'll say
yeah.
it. I mean, even in the books, we had that, right? The women's council still kind of
Mhm.
ruled the roost, and Nynaeve would threaten to thump anyone with her stick. Ooh,
I'm gonna give you a
um,
thumping.
yeah, exactly. Can't talk about her age. Can't talk about her inability um, to tell the wind and the weather, or when spring's happening, or anything.
Oh shoot!
Whatever.
I totally missed that. They had a whole scene where Nynaeve was teaching Egwene how to read the wind.
Oh boy, I'm okay. You're okay skipping that. Thank you. um, jeez. But yeah, Rob, you're correct. Especially book one, the White Cloaks would never have done that. Even in mid series books 3, 4, right? They're a little more bold, but never to outright um, confront and try to kill one unless they had a very clear advantage because they knew how dangerous the Aes Sedai were.
Mhm. Yes. There's one, not really in, it's not a Aes Sedai encounter, but there is one encounter in the books in Barrowline, because in the books there okay, so Lord Captain Commander Bornhold's son, so Dane Bornhold, is actually camped. His army is camped by Barrowline. You don't meet him; you only hear about him. But there are, or maybe you do meet him, don't you? Yes, you do. I think I'm
Yeah, we
wrong
do.
there. You meet him in the city.
In the city. Remember,
Yeah,
there Rand has a slight problem in the city.
yeah. So you do meet him. But it's not a true confrontation. I think they just have a minor altercation with the White Cloaks, and then the city guard
Yeah,
steps in and kind
yeah.
of
The
settles it
next
down.
city, the next big city, is where they have a problem with him. But this was minor, and this is where we get Avenda, right?
No, not
So they didn't
yet.
do it.
Not
So they changed that because she was in Barelon.
no, no. Venda wasn't in Berlin. They don't.
Yeah,
They
the
don't. They don't.
Min.
Men is in Berline. Avenda is in Tyr.
Yeah, yeah.
Avenda's in
Oh,
Tyr.
Tyr. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So they meet Min and Tom in Berlin, but in the series, it's only Matt and Rand that go to Berlin. And Berlin is this little dumpy looking mining community that's built by a lake. And as they're coming into the city, they see a body in a cage, and it's an ale that's in this cage that the people of Barrowloin killed and then left the body out there in the cage. So they get into Barrowloin. These two, they get into Barrowloin, and they meet Min. Min is a tavern wench, like running a tavern. Not like living with her aunts and like the story thing where she, works in the tavern. She is in the tavern. Nope, I am mistaken. I'm getting it mixed up. Because she did take them. Moraine did take them to meet Min in Barrowloin. I could have swore this little city was Barrowloin, but maybe it's not. Maybe this is just another fabrication that I'm thinking of. Because in the series, there's this little mining town that has the ale, the ale there, and they don't meet Tom in Barrowloin where they meet Min. So Moraine takes them to meet Min, trying to get the visions. Actually, no. Not actually. I think they moved Min up into Min's not in Barrowloin. That's right. They meet Tom in Barrowloin. Min is actually in the series. She's up in the Borderlands because that's where they go to meet Min. Is up in the Borderlands. This little mining community that they're in, they go into a tavern where they meet Tom. And Tom ends up taking their money from them.
What?
Yeah. And the woman running the inn ends up being a dark friend. And this is the beginning of Rand realizing that he's different. Because he's able to touch the source. So this woman puts them to work for her chopping wood. At this point, Matt's already starting to feel the effects of the dagger, so he's starting to get worse. He's starting to get more scoundrelly, and he actually goes out to where that body is in the cage to rob the body. And Tom confronts him out there and kind of tells him the story of the ale and all that stuff. And they bury the ale because that's Tom's honorable that way, I guess. And then this tavern woman decides to try to capture, because the Fades are on the way. She's reported where these where Rand and Matt are, so the Fades are on their way. So she tries to capture Rand, and this is where Rand figures out that he can use the power to break out of this shack that she has him in. And Tom helps Matt and Rand escape this city. This little, it's not really a city. Hamlet, I guess you'd say. So Tom helps them by basically throwing one of his daggers, and it pierces the throat of this woman, and they run off into the woods, essentially. At that point, it does turn a little bit more back towards the story of the farmhouse piece. But not. It's weird for Rand and Matt and Tom, because Rand, Matt, and Tom go from Barrowloin, this Barrowloin, to traveling through the woods, and they end up in Whitebridge, I believe. Which does kind of parallel back to the story, because those three do end up in Whitebridge together. And then the rest of the group ends up north further. I'm gonna stop there because I gotta check a little bit here. But
my head hurts.
I can't.
That is so different.
It is very, very different. And in the Pern and Egwene piece doesn't make any. It follows to the story, but okay. So Pern and Egwene get separated, but they they did this thing with the wolves where, you know, they're out trying to find their way, and the wolves come, and at first they're scared of the wolves, but then essentially the wolves kind of herd them towards the Ethan Murray.
Elias, right? Elias.
Yeah. No, he's not there. Not in a
How
series.
else is he going to be able to? He's got to be there.
Not early on. No. They connect with the Ethan Murray, okay, and the traveling people.
Yeah.
And they spend some time with the traveling people. Egwene actually, her and Aram become pretty close.
Right, because they dance. I mean, we get that in the book too,
Yep,
right?
Yep.
He tries to convince her to stay with them.
Then,
But
well,
Elias was all before this, leading and took them there to the travelers.
no, that's not the series though. That doesn't introduce Elias in there. They actually.
So does Perrin start talking to the wolves yet, or
No.
he's just
No.
okay? All right. So at least that's not
right. So okay, so they end up traveling with the traveling people for a while. The traveling people get confronted by the White Cloaks. And that's where Pern and Egwene are taken captive by the White Cloaks, by Aemon Valda. And Valda is convinced that Egwene is a, you know, quote unquote witch, even though she has no training or anything. She hasn't even been to the White Tower yet. So he starts torturing Pern.
So did Perrin, did they kill the White Cloaks already?
Yes.
Or did they completely skip that? Okay, so
he starts torturing Perrin to get her to do something.
To channel, right?
Right. And Perrin then mysteriously, you know, comes into his you know, his powers. Suddenly his eyes are glowing, he's able to free himself, and you know, he's a you know,
A
shadow
werewolf, great.
shadow spawn. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. And he calls the wolves without even knowing what he's doing. Calls the wolves. The wolves come and attack the White Cloaks, and that helps Pern and Egwene escape.
Okay. I got nothing, man. I can't. We're so far from the books. I don't.
It is. It's way away from the books.
Well, I can't even try to say, well, here's where you are. Here's what would have been different. These one or two things, because this entire encounter is so different.
If you want to add Infinity, go ahead.
I was just saying, it's like they're trying to take Perrin's story through, what was it, all the way up through the first 10 books and condense it. That makes no sense.
Well, and okay, so
did they introduce Zareen or Fail in here at all?
No. And okay, so this is taking us all the way through season 1. So they haven't been to Tyr yet. So season 1 they end up in Kandor? No, not Kandor. Crap, I can't remember the name of the country. Not Arafel. What's right next to Arafel? Shinar. They end up in Shinar, which follows with the books. But when they get to Shinar, okay, by this time Rand has a pretty good idea that he is the Dragon Reborn. Okay.
That's book 2.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Literally,
it's
it's called Dragon Reborn
yeah,
because
but
he has to fight at the Eye of the World in book 1
right. So
and defeat Balthamol and Agenor.
and that's what ends up. So they end up going. They don't. It doesn't follow the same path as the books do here either, because they end up going up there. The Horn of Valor is actually buried under the throne of the King of Arafel in the series. So they don't go and find they don't go they do. Moraine and Rand do kind of travel through the Blight, and they end up finding basically the Dark One's place, which used to be this big beautiful city, and they end up there, and that's when they meet. I think it's Beelzebub. Not Asmodean. What's his name?
So they, in the books, the two that they fight are Balthamol and Agenor.
Yep. Nope.
And that's the battle that they have there.
Nope. Not the series. And yeah, in the books, they meet the Treant. The Treant helps them fight.
Yeah.
And Rand ends up absorbing the well of power.
Exactly. And that's where they pull out the chest, they get the horn and the banner, right? Because that's where the banner.
Right. But in the series, the horn and the banner are in under the throne. And okay, so in the series, they're yeah, when Moiraine and Rand are coming back out of the Blight, basically all of the powerful, well, basically the Blight is attacking. So you got piles of Fades and Trollocs, and they're all coming down to wipe this kingdom off the map. And it ends up being Egwene, Nynaeve, and a bunch of sisters are basically not really even sisters, people who were basically turned away from the tower. And they all link together to destroy these Trollocs. It's not Rand that does it. It's Nynaeve and this group of women that do it. In the story, it's Rand. Rand goes there and clears Tarwin's Gap.
Yeah.
And in the series, it's Nynaeve and these not quite Aes Sedai that do it.
That somehow know how to link,
Yeah.
which is also forbidden.
Yep.
And are able to destroy them all. Okay.
Shit, I missed a big part in here too, because they what's his name? The other channeler that claimed to be the Dragon Reborn, Logan. Okay, so
Yeah, Logan.
Yeah, so they actually Moiraine finally gets Moiraine, Lan, and Nynaeve find this group of Aes Sedai. Okay, that is transporting Logan back to the tower. All right. So Lilladrin, the one I don't like, tries to basically kind of makes a play to try to recruit Nynaeve to the Redajah. But they end up basically, okay, it takes 2 Aes Sedai to maintain the shield on Logan. He's so strong. It takes 2 Aes Sedai to maintain the shield. Well, something happens, and he ends up breaking the shield. And when he breaks the shield, it basically kills Lan. And
I'm sorry. Well, I'm sorry. I must have bad internet because I thought I heard something that I know I didn't hear. He breaks the shield at what?
he breaks the shield and it kills Lan.
Is there a secondary character named Lan in this series?
Well, hold on. Let me tell you the rest. But wait, there's more. So, so okay, kills Lan. All right. They get Logan back under control. Nynaeve, who at this point has no lake scene or anything like that, but she's figured out that she's in love with Lan. She is so powerful that she heals everybody and completely heals Lan.
You can't heal death.
There's only one person in the room that doesn't get healed. There's an Aes Sedai that gets killed, but she apparently catches Lan just before he dies, and she heals everyone. And they play this. There's this scene where Logan is looking at her and basically like, oh, she must be the Dragon Reborn type of scene, because his the Dragon Reborn's radiance will be brighter than the sun. So that's how they played up her power. Is her power was this bright light that just kept expanding over everyone and healed. She's such a powerful healer. She healed everybody in the room all at once. Didn't even have to touch them. Nothing. She just had her hands on Lan, and her power was so great that it healed everybody except for the one dead woman.
Well, I mean, Lan was mostly dead.
Yeah, he was laying on the floor bleeding out. I mean,
oh my gosh, I wonder if are they going to make her the Dragon Reborn?
who knows? I don't know at this point. Well, okay. The end of season 2 does end out in Falme. And instead of a dragon banner, they had Moiraine create an actual flame dragon. And
there is no way that Moiraine, after the prophecy that she heard when he was born, there is no way she would change her mind and try to support someone else.
Well, in the battle in the sky is a battle where, and now we're basically into season 2 here, and this is way outside of book 1, but the battle is
book 2
is what right, but the battle, the actual fight scene where you have these two fighting over in the sky. Yep. It's in the series. It's on the highest. It's on this tower. It's basically like a lighthouse style tower is where they're actually fighting, and it's not Rand to begin with. He is actually trying to attack Egwene, and Egwene somehow, without any real training, is fending off the attacks of a Forsaken, Samuel.
So Egwene is fending off the attacks of a Forsaken when she's had no formal training in either weaponry or the one power.
Right.
What the fuck? What kind of bull? That's like Rey taking on Kylo Ren.
So hold on.
What? Oh my God, I'm done.
Samael is the strongest of them. He was like their military genius.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think it might not be. I might have got that wrong. Might not be Samuel. Samuel ends up in Ilion, so no, it can't be Samuel. I don't know. I'm forgetting which one that is.
I mean, either way, the answer
is not Belzeman, because he's the one that's in Tyr.
Yeah,
it's not Asmodean. It's
can't be Ravine because he's not brought in yet. He's got to be way later.
Right.
And it's one of the males, right? It's not.
Yep. It's not Grendel, although Grendel does show up in
season 1.
In season 2.
I mean, she's the most secretive of them all. She's the
The
one who ran the
spider.
spy network.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, even in the books, she barely showed up. She was always hiding or would use someone. Wow. I mean, it couldn't be Ishmael because out of all the Forsaken, he was number one. Mogadeen wouldn't be it. Who else?
Shit, I can't remember which one it was now. But yeah. Anyway, it's so there was a triad. There were three that got along really well, and that was Lewis Thurn, um, his girlfriend, and then there was a third one.
Don't you talk bad about Celine Lanfear. Don't you do that.
Celine's all right, but that Lanfear, I don't know.
Does the actress do a good job? At least.
Honestly, I am not. I'm not. No, in my opinion.
No.
I mean, I don't.
Okay.
I don't want to badmouth the actress in that, but it's just she's playing a character that is just not. It's not a right. It's not a right fit.
It's not written
It's
correctly.
it's a hard freaking character to play if you really want to play it right.
Yeah.
And they botched a lot of it with the story piece because the whole thing getting them to Falme. I mean, there's a lot that's in the books in between that really builds the story. You don't really get the and just like the build up to the Horn of Valor being used and calling the heroes of legend, that's the way they did it is
So was it still Matt at least?
what's that?
Was it still Matt who called them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And did he have the dagger? I mean, you haven't talked about the dagger. So does
Well,
did he get it? Is he still corrupted? Is it,
he actually does. They do get the dagger away from him.
Because Padden Fane gets
Yep.
it.
Yep.
Spoilers. Sorry.
And they get the dagger away from him. Peyton Fane gets that. Lilladrin basically takes the three girls. So she takes Egwene, Nynaeve, and Eleni, and she takes them through the ways, just like the book piece to it, but basically turns them over to the Seachin. Yeah. So you got that piece in there.
Well, Min also. In the books, Min went with them.
Yeah.
But right, because she couldn't channel, so they just let her. As long as she said the vows, she could visit. She wasn't, captured, quote unquote, captured.
Right. I'm gonna have to watch it again because I don't remember Min actually being there with them. I don't think she was. I think it was just the three that could channel that she took, and revealed herself as a dark friend at the same time, basically. But
yeah, because remember in the books, that's where Min verbalized her love for Rand, and when Lanfear showed up at the door saying, "Oh,
right."
Comment, but you better take care of him. He's mine, and he's been marked for me.
Right. No, it's like I said, it's a different story, man. It is not the Wheel of Time. It is just not. It's reminiscent of the Wheel of Time, but it is not the Wheel of Time. That's not the story they're telling. I don't care how much you want to call it a reimagining. It's what you put the name of the Wheel of Time on it. You have access to the IP to tell this story you know, and then instead of telling the actual story, you tell something entirely different. It's reminiscent of the story, but it's not the story. And for people who have not read the books, people who have not really truly been introduced to the Wheel of Time, honestly, it's not a bad story. I mean, the series really isn't bad. But I guarantee you, once you crack open the books, you're gonna be like, yeah, that is garbage. That is garbage because the story is 100 times better. That's just my opinion, but
Nope, I'm willing to agree with you on that one. It usually is. Even again, the Lord of the Rings trilogy by Peter Jackson.
mhm.
I read the books before I watched the movie. You know, and the book's way better. But again, he did as close to a solid adapt. I'm not even going to say an adaptation, but a solid. I'm not even reimagining. Doesn't even work. It was as close to a one-to-one copy as you could get. I think at that time, because
I'm sorry.
but
No, I was gonna say I am really curious to see where they go in the series with season 3, because technically season 3 would be the Dragon Reborn. Based on what they've been, they have kind of tried to parallel like season 1 being paralleled somewhat to the Eye of the World. Lot of stuff missing. And a lot of liberties taken. Season 2 kind of paralleled to The Hunt for the Horn. And then season 3 should ideally be paralleled to The Dragon Reborn, but that's, you know,
apparently the picture you described, apparently the Dragon Reborn is Egwene.
oh, well, Egwene or Nynaeve.
Yeah,
I
because
mean,
it's like
right.
what use is there for fucking Rand? I mean, apparently they can do everything already. So he might as well pack up, go back to the farm.
Well, I think what they're
Instead.
I think they're trying to play up the idea because, okay, in book 1, the first so many chapters, I mean, it's not clear.
Yeah,
It's
well, yeah,
only it's
obviously it's never clear who it is, but you, at least as the reader, you get the sense it's one of the three boys.
we're right because they're the 3 Tabarine.
Hmm.
Right. And that is identified. Mulrain actually identifies that like pretty early on. That I
Yeah,
came here because of you three. You three are Tabarine. This is you can impact the world around you. You can impact the pattern, and the pattern will work itself around you. Where for a normal person, you basically live according to what the pattern, whatever the weave of time says. That's your life.
yeah.
You have this unique ability to twist that around yourself and actually make change in it.
So I would, and you may not know this. This is something you probably need to rewatch to find out. Is did she actually say that they're, you know, Taveran, and that's it? Because in the books, right, Taveran doesn't necessarily mean the Dragon Reborn. It does mean, like you said, they can influence the world around them just
Right.
by literally walking. Right, their presence itself can change things and events around them. But she calls out in the books, right? One is the Dragon Reborn, and the other two are, even though the Dragon Reborn is also Tavern, obviously, because he's going to break the world or prevent it. The other two, an unexpected quote unquote bonus, was that there were two more in the village that had that ability. I wonder if in the series she does word it where it's just, oh, you're all three of you are just Tavern, and
Yes.
you're not. You're not. That doesn't mean you are. One of you is the Dragon Reborn.
No, though they do actually, because the prophecy piece comes into play in season 2. And they very deliberately tell the story of the maiden giving birth to the dragon. So I mean, it's. I'm going to say it's not necessarily obvious that the Dragon Reborn is Rand coming out of the end of season 2. But he is definitely, I would say, the 3 right now that are the primary contenders. See, Egwene doesn't defeat this Forsaken, but she does hold her own, which is an oddity in and of itself. She does hold her own against this Forsaken. The Forsaken is finally beat by Rand. So I think, and then obviously Matt blows the horn of valor, so you kind of get where he fits into things. Go ahead. Were you gonna say something? Yours?
No.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I think it's pretty clear at this point that Rand is the one to watch. Plus, I mean, the lane fair piece actually comes into play. They one piece that I also found very disturbing is they hint at wow, my brain is fuzzy at this point. They hint at Min possibly being a dark friend or being associated with dark friends.
No, don't do that to me. Come on.
Yeah.
You've already broken me on enough different things. No, Min has no. Literally no.
Yeah. Yep.
And what's the logic in her being a dark friend?
I am not sure yet. I think it's because of her past acquaintances, so she's a little on the shady side. Where they don't, I mean, that's not necessarily, one could draw that conclusion based on the books that her past hasn't always been, but I mean, she grew up with her aunts, and it's they have her played more like an orphan girl that in the series.
I mean, she's if I remember, the book say she's like 1 or 2 years older than Rand, Matt, and Perrin.
Yep.
So the whole owning a bar, no, right?
She doesn't.
It just.
Yeah, she doesn't own the bar. She doesn't own the
Oh,
bar.
I thought you said she did.
Okay. No, I was earlier when I was talking about that. I got confused a little bit with a different character that's in there, and it's no. She does work as a barmaid, but she doesn't own the bar. No.
Okay.
Which does play with the story as well.
I really hope they don't do that to her.
I have.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I just had one question. So, you were talking about the fight that he had over the Sen Chen. I'm wondering, did they have Rand get injured in that fight? Because that was a very critical thing.
Good call. Good question.
You're correct.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that wound that he takes. It's in the first or second book.
That was very critical for Rand when he took that wound in that fight.
It's also part of the prophecy.
It is.
Right? Because his blood will be spilled on Shaiol Ghul.
Yeah. From what I remember, that wound sticks with him throughout the whole
never heals.
Yeah, it could never be healed. And so that's why it's one of the key parts in was it the second book, I think, that he did fight?
Yep.
The third,
yeah. So I think it's the second book, yeah.
Yep.
Because it does impact him later on in the books.
It's part of the explanation for why his persona starts getting darker as well, is because he's got that piece of the dark one that's essentially embedded itself into him. I don't remember. I think that does happen, but I can't recall right now. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I know the actual story, but I think they do that in the series, but I don't remember it.
I mean, Nynaeve should be able to heal him. She brought somebody back pretty much dead. What's one little? I mean, she's. I'm sorry.
What's one little
I'm being
crack in
bitter
the
on that whole
dark
thing.
Yeah, it's just a little, just a little spear from a Forsaken. I mean,
Yeah.
no big deal. No, no. So, and okay, so here's another piece for you. You remember what happened in Falme with the High Lord Tarak?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You mean before that battle with him, or
Well,
Rand's
yes.
interaction? Which part?
Well, you remember the actual story piece. So in the series, all right, in the series, Rand, who is looking for his people, walks into the courtyard where the High Lord Tarak is seated with his soldiers. Okay. And the High Lord Tarak sees that he has a heron mark blade, so the High Lord Tarak shows him that he has a heron mark blade, does all these fancy moves with them 1.5 foot long fingernails, all these fancy moves with this sword, and literally Rand with a wave of the hand uses the one power to kill all 20 of them, including the High Lord Tarak.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Just that simple. Just like, boom, you're out of here. Kills them all. No fight, no nothing. No epic battle between blade masters or any of that.
Yeah,
That
that
was
was
such
one thing
an.
that I love about his progression. It's like you obviously you see Land train him and stuff like that. And he gets
Right.
better and better and better.
Now we're in, season 2 or book 2 and he's Billy Badass already. Yep.
Well, I can honestly say I stopped in episode 1, and from everything I'm hearing, I have zero regrets.
Yeah.
That I did not, I was not one of the people who watched it to help their metrics so they would renew it for another season.
Wow, man, I kind of feel like you just called me out.
No. No, not at
I'm glad
all.
I haven't
Not
seen
at
it
all.
because I'm gonna skip it because that with
Yeah.
all of the stories they're trying to compress into the first
Yes.
2 seasons, it just no, they butchered the whole thing.
Yeah,
And here's the
well,
thing:
go ahead. Sorry.
the sad part is this show would work with a traditional season length of, you know, 20 some odd. Like I think most seasons, at least back, especially back in the day, most good and well received shows had like 24, episodes. I think they can cover all of book one in 24 episodes, not in 8.
Right. Right.
You know, definitely not in 8. Like 24
Uh,
episodes, 22 episodes. I can see you covering all the good, major plot points and a bit of the filler that goes into book.
That's
But
the saddest part for me, Rob, is it like I said, I mean, it is not the Wheel of Time. That's not the story they're telling. I don't really feel like they're even really trying to tell the story. They're definitely just telling their own story. They've gone through and read through the material in the books and cherry picked out what they think will play well and then built a new story off of that. And that's what they're telling.
Well, I kind of agree with you, but I think what they're really trying to do is they've understood that not everybody has the uh, what's the word I want to say?
Attention span,
Uh,
patience. I
yeah,
mean,
attention span, to be able to handle a full series like that.
No, you make a good point.
see, here's the piece though. I just want to point this out to you because I agree with you on one hand, but on the other hand, I have to point to series like The Walking Dead. Okay, but even more than that, I have to point to series like The Young and the Restless, The Guiding Light. I mean, these are series that have been going on as daytime specials for longer than I've been alive. So I mean,
But that's the point, though. They are from a different time frame. Those were years ago. I know those series myself
mhm.
because I grew up during the time that they were being played, and it's. I think they're just trying to get more towards the attention span of this newer generation, where everybody doesn't have a lot of the time that they can actually invest into a quality story.
That made me sad, brother.
I thought you were going to go with something like, oh, look, it's Babylon 5 or Stargate. And here are series that they didn't give up on the spirit of the source material and kept
Huge
it going
Stargate
for long
fan.
periods of time.
Well, I think I agree with Infinity Core. I think the vast majority of people, even folks, who are Greg your age, Garrus your age, my age, we grew up watching those longer form TV shows. That's what we looked forward to. I think now a couple of things. It's probably what Infinity Core said. People they don't have the attention span. They don't. I'd even wait to say they might not even care as much. But then from the studio's perspective, it's like I can people are used to these eight, I think max 12 12 episode seasons, so I don't have to spend the extra money anymore.
Yeah,
Because look
for
look at every show that's come out, that's like a Netflix, studios exclusive or Amazon Prime like exclusive. They're all 8 to 12 episodes still. They're always all 8 to 12 episodes. Um, I don't give a shit. Like I'm not gonna spend the extra money.
I agree. And gentlemen, I do need to drop off. I'm going to let you guys keep going because
I think
you're having a great conversation.
I think we're probably going to wrap up here in just a little bit. Unfortunately, I it's been some long days, and I honestly just need to get some sleep. So I don't want to go on too much longer. Uh,
Infinity Core, thanks, man. I appreciate you coming in and being part of it.
No, thanks. Even though I really need to go read the books now, and now I'm gonna have to go do it. So thanks.
Hey, I am in the process of rereading right now. I've stalled out a little bit on book 12, but not because of the book, but just because of everything else going on. Lots of busyness, so I kind of had to put them down for a little while, and I'm looking forward to picking them back up. But thank you very much for being here with us tonight, Garrus. We will do this again. I was gonna try to do like one episode for every book, but I've realized tonight that there's no way that our squirrely minds can handle that. So maybe
Yeah,
maybe we'll
so much packed in there, man.
right. Maybe we'll do maybe like maybe like once a month we'll just do, I don't know, maybe a 5 episode series. We could probably knock out all 15 books in 5 episodes.
The
And
way we're jumping around, yeah, I think we could.
yeah, hey, and for you guys who are interested, please do go check out Garrus's channel. Garrus is actually working on doing a reading of book 1 right now. So if you go check that out, and what book by audio with Garrus's voice. I mean, who could imagine?
You're trying to scare people away. I understand.
No, I think they'll love it, man. I listened to your episode from the last one that you did. Sounds great. So yeah, keep going.
All right. Well, I've got to drop. As I said, you guys, that great talking with you all, and
Likewise,
hearing about it. Um, really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of the stream.
Thank you.
yeah, good one. Thank you.
Whoops. I
So,
gotta I
did
gotta
you break the stream?
I apparently hold on a second here and I'll bring you back in. This is the weirdness because we have the audio set up this way tonight, so there we go. So we didn't cover all of book one, but I mean, I think we covered a lot of it, and we spent a lot of time kind of with the comparison thing, but I knew that was going to happen with the series being out there, and like I said, the series is a good story. It is. I wouldn't tell anybody not to watch the series. Um, just bear in mind, it is not the Wheel of Time. That's one thing. If you just keep that in your head, you will see that there are similarities for sure because they obviously use the basis of that series. They use the Wheel of Time for the basis of that series, but it is definitely in all senses a reimagining of the story for sure.
Okay. Well, I'm never gonna watch it, but that's okay. They'll live. I'm sorry. Like I have a vehement dislike of that. Like if you're gonna take an already established, again, I know we've talked about that. You're gonna take an already established IP. Stay true to the roots of it. Like don't just take the things that you like tell the story.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with the technology and stuff and techniques that we have now, you couldn't tell us, you couldn't tell a story like the Wheel of Time and really get the effects of the usage of the one power and all these other things, accurately on the screen. Um, Now you can,
Right.
but they chose to you know make it better.
So we haven't heard a lot from you tonight, Infinity. So what are your thoughts on all this? And I got a couple of questions because Garrus and I were asking questions right away at the beginning. So I'm really curious to know. Number one is who is your most unliked character for the entire series, all the books? Who's the one you don't like the most?
That's gonna be. I'm gonna have to reread them.
It's hard.
Um,
It's a hard one.
it, that is a hard one. I can understand Nynaeve being uh, the hated because right at the start she's like this super strict older sister type.
hmm
But I kind of saw that when I saw, oh, okay, well, she's just trying to get him in, you know, because I think Nynaeve, wasn't she the Wisdom's apprentice? I believe
She
I
was.
in
think
She
Field.
was. She actually was the wisdom.
yeah,
The
she's the
I don't.
current wisdom.
Yeah, I don't.
I think Egwene was training to be her apprentice, or like there were talks of it, from what I remember from reading. I think they were potentially going to train with her or something. I have to go back and look at that chapter.
Yeah,
The,
I'll definitely have to reread it now because I mean I read this like over 20 years ago. I was like Robert. I when the books came out, I got them, and I mean literally that night I got no sleep because I would just
Yeah,
power through the book.
I felt that. I feel that. That's what I yeah, that's what I used to do. I
In
remember
fact,
reading
that's
through.
I am a slow reader because there's not a chance in hell that I could power through that in a
uh,
night. No way.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think the 12th book took me 6 hours.
hmm Yeah.
I just powered
I
right
would
through it. I
I
got
would
no
sit there
sleep
and
that
just
night. It
devour
was
them.
like 4 in the morning. I'm like done.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so
I used
good.
to do
And
those
then
with
I got to go to work here in
uh
a couple hours.
I used to do those also with the Driss books. Just stay up all night and just read them multiple, just keep reading them because they were just so good.
See, I can
Oh,
stay up. I can stay
Ralph
up
Short?
all night
Oh, yeah, he was a
reading.
good author.
I can stay up all night reading and maybe get like 15 chapters. But I don't know. I like to. I don't know. I like to my so my wife does that. She'll like sit down and just read a whole book in like one afternoon. Um, I I I tend to think that I just like to absorb it more. So either that or I'm just really slow at reading, and it could be that too.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
It depends. If it's something that I'm really not interested in, I can read that really fast because I have to. It's like, okay, where's the pertinent information? Okay, done.
One of the things that, if I'm remembering this clearly, you didn't touch when you went through the Ajas, was that most of them, if I believe it was said that most of them only take like one order, but there was one Aja that took multiple.
Oh, the greens.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Greens do take multiple. It's not a rule that they can't take more than one. It's just the custom has been
Yeah, I think it was like kind of like one of those unwritten rules.
in the red
Or
don't take any orders.
oh, I forgot about that.
Mhm.
That's right. Yeah, because they believe them that they don't need one. They don't need them. Okay.
Right? I
So
don't
to
I
answer
don't
your
I don't
question
need no
though,
man. Talking about.
I, like I said, I'd have to reread it. But I'm probably going to go with Pedantane, even though you don't see much of him.
Hmm?
He's got that shifty feeling, especially when he did come in, because he's like, really. I'm just going off of foggy memory here. He
Yep,
was
yep.
liked by everybody, and you really don't see that even a traveling merchant. You're still going to have somebody that's somebody's going to say a cross word about somebody like, oh, that guy, he tried to take money from me on this or
Right.
whatnot, even though one of the guys, especially with an isolationist mindset as that.
Well, there's a long story behind Paid Finn, and that's why I didn't pick him as being the one that I hated the most. Because I mean, he's probably the one, as Garrus put it, he's probably the one that you love to hate. You know what I mean? So that's a different.
Wasn't his story a little bit tragic? I think it was.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, he
Later
was a
later
tragic
on,
story.
you
Yeah.
really find out what happened to this guy, and it's yeah, yeah.
So, but
And
I,
what
I'd have to pick him at this point, though. But like I said, I'm gonna have to reread it now.
right. And he is definitely, because he's the oddity in here, because there's no okay, Mesha Chen, there's no real explanation for what that really is, and whether it's part of the Dark One or a totally different thing. And so Peyton Fane has that darkness in him as well. So yeah, there's he is an interesting character. He really is an interesting character. He's one that you love to hate because he's got a devious evilness to him. But at the same point in time, the more you learn about him, and he's interesting.
He is when you start getting further on into the book series, definitely. But um,
Book
it's just
one,
that,
not so much.
yeah, not so much because you only get him really. You only see him in Eamon's Field, and then I believe, did he show up in Shador Logos?
Yes, he did.
That's right. So he showed up, and then I'm trying to pull from my memory here. I think there was one other place where they encountered him in the first book, but that was it. But anyway,
I think you're right. Because he definitely, basically, he kind of follows them for a while.
yeah, he shadows them.
Right, right. And then they end up following him in book 2, and that's how they end up in Falme. Because he ends up with the Horn of Valor and the dagger.
That's well, yeah, he did steal the dagger eventually.
Well,
Getting
he stole the horn, but to protect the people, to protect anybody around them from the power of the dagger, they actually stuck the dagger in the case that the horn was in. So those two things were together. So when he stole the horn, he ended up with the dagger as well. And then he was taking the Horn of Valor to Falme.
Okay.
That's
Yeah, I definitely need to reread this series again.
right. That's the Eigener, which was the Lord, the Shannaren Lord, who was leading the party with Pern and Matt.
Okay.
Or Rand, Pern, and Matt. Rand, Pern, and Matt. He was after the Horn of Valor. That's why he was going. But Rand and Pern and Matt were going because they had to get the dagger back because Matt was tied to the dagger. So if he didn't have the dagger, he was going to die.
Yes, I remember that now. Right.
Yep. And they ended up getting it back long enough that they could get Matt healed and basically, not. I don't think they ever really broke the curse of it, but they at least got him away from it.
Well, eventually they did get him to the tower to break his connection to the dagger, but by then it was, I think it was too late. He's still quote unquote tainted,
right?
Somewhat like Rand was, but in a different way. He was more tainted in the psychological aspect because he had the dagger, which was encroaching on his psyche.
You don't see the influence of the dagger after his second encounter with the Aelfin, which would have been in Ryodan. You don't really see the influence of the dagger anymore after that.
Well, not overt influence, but I believe he was already influenced to the point where his personality had changed.
Yeah.
I gotta read it.
And it looks like I have lost Rob. Ah, there he is. Okay. Welcome back, buddy.
Thank you.
So guys, I think I would like to wrap this up so I can go eat something and get some sleep. Thank you everybody for joining us tonight for this conversation that was supposed to be about book 1 of the Wheel of Time.
Kind of talked about all of them.
We did, but I had a feeling that's exactly what was going to happen. But that's you get some people that are passionate about something together, and it's really hard to try to isolate yourself to just one piece of it. You know what I mean? And so it is a fantastic series.
Mm-hmm.
Any closing words? Any final words from either of you two or both of you?
Go read the books.
Yeah, definitely go read the books. They are so much better.
Yeah, just go read the books, man. They're great. And then go read Brandon Sanderson's books, because he's also a fantastic author. One of my favorites is I want to say The Mistborn. I want to say that's the trilogy.
Mistborn.
Thanks. I mean, actually, I have it here on my phone because I have it on Kindle. Stand by. What is this series called? Because I want to get this one wrong. Yes, it is the Mistborn trilogy. Absolutely fantastic.
I will have to check that one out. I don't think I've read that one.
Really good.
But with that, little bit of housekeeping. next Wednesday we are having episode 50 of the update log.
We are.
So yeah,
Wow. Yep.
episode 50. With all the special episodes and everything, we're up to like almost 70.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So
Hey.
if you missed it, go check out the episode yesterday with Twain Martin. That was awesome, and it was really great to get to sit down and chat with him.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
We've had a
definitely check
couple. Well, I mean, all of our guests have been great. So
Mm.
any final words from you, Infinity?
No. Sorry, I'm kind of busy.
That's
Everything.
good.
I was really just here, but no. Sounds good. I will say though that I did enjoy yesterday's episode of the update log. That was really good.
Awesome. Glad you enjoyed it.
Awesome. All right, with that, I think I am going to go ahead and close this thing out. So it's going to be an abrupt stop tonight because I'm just going to drop the stream. So you guys have a really good night. Thank you for being here. Enjoyed the conversation immensely to, really dig into this because it's a series that I absolutely love. Outside of that, good night.